progressive are unable to actually acknowledge the root political and economic problems and provide more grounded explanations for them, as I just did. Because, well, they like capitalism, they're largely okay with the dominant system and the status quo in general. So when they come across one of these conspiracy theories, they have no real interest in acknowledging, let alone tackling, the real economic issues that they actually stem from. And they're certainly not going to be providing a rational alternative explanation for why such issues exist. All they can really do, and this is exactly what they tend to do, is just sort of laugh about how the conspiracy theories are ridiculous. Which, yeah, they are. But just pointing out that they're ridiculous and little else isn't really providing any alternatives to their audiences and their potential audiences. And that's why liberals can't counter conspiracy theories. You see that? I said the title of the video. Please clap. Before continuing, I'd like to thank the sponsor of this video, Atlas VPN. Now, I'm originally from Australia, but I live in Argentina, two places that are pretty far away if you didn't know. And I sometimes try to access Australian content online, only to find that it's region blocked. For example, the Australian public broadcaster SBS has an extensive library of movies available to stream for free on their SBS On Demand website. But here's what happens if I try to watch them from Argentina. I can't. Region blocked. Terrible, right? Well, luckily, all is not lost. Atlas VPN can fix this problem with just the click of a button. All I have to do is search for an Australian server in the app, click it, and within seconds, I'm able to stream any movie they have on there just as if I were actually in Australia while I'm on the other side of the world. If you want to do the same for whatever region block is preventing you from accessing the content that you want to watch, or also for other things like keeping your Google searches private or blocking ads and malware, Atlas VPN is the perfect solution. Especially since with just one single subscription, you can install it and use it on an unlimited number of devices. Atlas VPN currently has a summer deal going on. You can get a free year-long Atlas VPN premium subscription for just $1.83 per month, with 3 months extra thrown in for free, and with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Take advantage, protect your privacy, and get all of the benefits of Atlas VPN for this extremely low price. Head down to the description of this video and click the link there to get your hands on this deal. Thanks again to Atlas VPN for their sponsorship of this video, and now let's get right back to it. So now let's move on to one of our other examples. One of the most dangerous and widespread conspiracy theories in the US today is known as QAnon. To summarize it very succinctly, QAnon is based around this anonymous guy who calls himself Q, hence the QAnon name, who posts these ridiculous, cryptic predictions online that imply things like, tomorrow, Donald Trump is totally gonna arrest all of his political opponents. Trust me, guys. None of what he posts has ever come true, yet somehow hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people, still somehow believe that this Q guy is some sort of insider who's blowing the lid off a vast conspiracy. QAnoners, as the conspiracy's adherents are often called, though I honestly don't care enough to check if they actually call themselves that, believe, based on posts by this Q, that former Republican Party US President Donald Trump was, or perhaps even still is, the savior of the USA. According to them, he's going to fix absolutely everything that's wrong with the country, and he's going to do it by destroying the opposition Democratic Party and liberal progressives in general, who, according to them, secretly run everything from behind the scenes via their control of the deep state, a shadowy, unaccountable and powerful group of people within the US state. And also, and this is very, very important for QAnon, the Democrats and liberals of this deep state run a secret child trafficking ring where they apparently harvest kids' blood for satanic rituals and also eat said kids, which is apparently supposed to be like their ultimate motivation for everything else they do. Because why not, I guess? QAnoners have a particular disdain for Donald Trump's 2016 election opponent, Hillary Clinton, and believe that basically any prominent public figure who is at all aligned with the Democratic Party is a part of this conspiracy. Now, QAnon is obviously ridiculous and insane, and its believers have some serious issues, to say the least. But one of the reasons why it was able to grow so much so fast is because of the inability of the same liberals who the conspiracy theory largely targets to effectively counter the core assumptions that underlay it. They can't provide rational alternative explanations for the real problems that QAnon latches onto, and then provide its own insane explanations for. For example, the whole elite child trafficking ring thing that QAnon is reliant upon is actually somewhat based in reality. The entire Jeffrey Epstein affair, where said rich financier ran a private island where children were really trafficked to really be abused by America's political and economic elite makes that very clear. The thing is, though, it wasn't just the Clintons and other targets of QAnon who had compromising ties to Epstein. Donald Trump, their own Jesus Christ-like figure, did too. In fact, I would argue that his ties to Epstein are even more compromising than those of the Clintons. He even once called Epstein a terrific guy. This, of course, makes perfect sense in the context of a rather basic, logical, systemic critique. The US has one of the most deeply entrenched two-party systems in the entire world, with both parties very well known for their primary commitment of protecting the interests of the economic elite, to only marginally different degrees. Bill and Hillary Clinton have spent most of their lives being the top-level representatives of these very same elites. And Donald Trump, a billionaire, is one of said elites. The Clintons have spent most of their lives serving people like him, so that they frequented the same circles and all have similar connections to some nefarious figure like Epstein, whose whole job was to facilitate the depraved, disgusting, and abusive habits of them and people like them, is hardly surprising. The average liberal can't quite acknowledge these truths, though, because, for one, they're unlikely to be willing to concede that the economic interests of such a vile right-wing capitalist like Donald Trump are so neatly aligned with those of the rest of the capitalist class, including the supposedly good capitalists who are liberal Democrats. Because for them, the system itself isn't the problem. The problem is instead just that there are bad actors within it. Quite similar to what Alex Jones sort of implies with his conspiracy theory that we went over earlier. So there are good billionaires, like the tech billionaires, who tend to be more likely to back the Democratic Party, and there are bad ones, like the orange man, Donald Trump. Thus, for them, the issue isn't that the system allows someone like Donald Trump and every other big capitalist to exist in the first place, but rather just that Trump is sort of individually a bad guy, for reasons largely unrelated to his class position. So, liberals are unwilling to critique capitalism, which really needs to be done in order to accurately explain why something like the Epstein child trafficking ring exists in the first place. The concentration of wealth in the hands of capitalists, which makes them and the politicians who they deputize to advocate for their interests practically untouchable, and thus able to do pretty much whatever they want, no matter how depraved it may be. The liberals' inability to point to this very obvious root cause greatly hampers their ability to counter QAnon's exaggerations and its conspirational explanations for why things like this happen. And for two, Donald Trump was good friends with the Clintons for decades, and he was a big-time donor to the Democratic Party. They even remained friends all the way up to Donald Trump's 2016 presidential run. Trump's old pal Bill even encouraged him to run for president in the 2015 phone call, which I think Bill may have come to regret since, until Trump's own personal ambition to become president put him on a collision course with that exact same ambition of Hillary Clinton. The families quite liked one another, and that makes perfect sense. Trump was an incredibly wealthy businessman, and the Clintons were two of the world's most prominent representatives of incredibly wealthy businessmen. Why wouldn't they get along? Liberals, of course, can never acknowledge something like that, because to them, the Clintons are like superheroes, and Trump is their arch nemesis. The notion that their most important interests have actually always been fundamentally quite aligned is, for the liberal, taboo, explaining that the Clintons, who are basically like Satan for QAnoners, were actually great pals with Donald Trump, who QAnoners tend to paint as like some sort of Jesus Christ figure, and that all of them have very similar ties to an actually existing child abuse ring, is a very good way to dismantle QAnon's entire narrative. But liberals can't do that, because to them, Hillary and Bill Clinton are the good guys and Donald Trump is the bad guy. The suggestion that the Clintons or other mainstream Democratic Party or liberal politicians have spent most of their lives serving the interests of people just like Donald Trump, true as it may be, wouldn't exactly be well received by the average liberal. And all of this has its roots in the exact same problem. Liberals are unable to critique the economic system itself, most political systems themselves, etc., because, well, it is their economic system, it is their political system. And they're also certainly not going to be acknowledging the class conflict that is inherent to these systems anytime soon. They thus deny themselves the ability to point out the common interest between the two groups that QAnon likes to pretend are mortal enemies, which is a very powerful angle of attack against them. This is also a good angle to use against Trump's MAGA movement in general, because, well, it's often difficult to tell exactly where Trump's mainstream MAGA movement and QAnon begins and ends. Because while their claims about the specific people who they cast as their enemies tend to differ a bit, the enemies are pretty much the same. The perceptions of the Clintons, of liberals, and of the Democratic Party as satanic enemies of the glorious hero Donald Trump is shared between both. But as we just went over, the economic interests who these two sides both largely represent are the same. Hence why Trump supporters, along with many other Republicans, tend to focus much more on demonizing minorities, such as with their very prevalent anti-LGBT panic narratives. And the Democrats have really been mostly happy to oblige them, focusing on pushing the exact opposite position, which is obviously the correct one, while being quite happy to still do relatively little to differentiate themselves economically. As long as they can keep people focused on everything but the economic system that is at the actual root of everyone's problems, as long as one side is kept frothing at the mouth about, say, the existence of LGBT people, while the other side is kept desperately trying to defend their basic rights, the wealthy elites who wield the real power are going to be just fine, and nothing will ever really be solved for good. They don't particularly care if you buy from the pro-LGBT company or from the anti-LGBT company, as long as you're buying, and as long as those markets remain free enough for them to exploit. Let's move on now to our other example, the white genocide conspiracy theory.
Hang on, let me call Langley, give him the good news.
Hell of a job, crew. Someone pull us out.
This
so
is
we can
common
celebrate.
in far-right circles in the West, and has even been peddled in the mainstream media, particularly by Tucker Carlson on Fox News. This conspiracy theory posits that the migration of people considered by its adherents to be non-white to countries that they regard as racially white countries is a planned and intentional act of genocide against white people, which is usually claimed to be directed and carried out by some sort of shadowy global Jewish cabal, is to gradually alter the racial demographics of these countries with more and more non-white immigrants until the people that they consider to be white become a minority. What exactly the groups who they claim are doing this would actually gain from doing it tends to be very unsatisfactorily explained. I could go on for a long time about the very obvious racism at the root of this, and I have another video about the origins of racism itself, which might give you some insight on that topic if you're interested. But I want to stick with the theme here, and instead hone in on another root factor that this conspiracy theory latches onto: the very real economic problems that result in the very real problem of migration from poorer countries to rich ones. Though such migration is actually a problem for those poorer countries and their people, rather than for the rich ones that the white genocide conspiracy theory laughably frames as their victims. Liberals tend to attack this conspiracy theory and others like it by focusing on debunking the racism that is inherent to it and celebrating the contributions of migrants to these rich first world countries. These are clearly important things to talk about, but their liberal ideology also happens to cloud their ability to explain something that's extremely important to it: why this migration happens in the first place. Let's use the USA again as the prime example here. Most, but not all, anti-immigrant sentiment in the US is directed at irregular migration across its southern border, where people predominantly from Mexico and Central America, but also from many other places, cross in search of a better life in the USA. Millions upon millions upon millions of people have decided that the situation in their home countries is so bad, the opportunities for them there so near inexistent, that they'd be better off leaving them to take an incredibly long, arduous, and very dangerous journey to the USA. A trip that they have a very real chance of dying on, to live undocumented, and without the basic rights that documentation affords, like basic worker protections, and the ability to ever actually go back and visit their families in their home countries, since if you're an irregular migrant, obviously it's very difficult for you to get back into the USA after leaving, and all with the very real risk of their lives potentially being destroyed at any moment if they get arrested and deported. These are extremely drastic measures for someone to choose to take. No one is going to leave their family, their neighborhood, everything and everyone they've grown up with and know, and do such a thing unless they truly believe that things are so bad at home that such a colossal attempt to change their life comes with enough potential benefit to be worth the massive risk. So we have to ask then, why is it that things are, for the average person, so much worse in their home countries and so much better in the USA, even despite the fact that the USA is quite well known for having a relatively low median standard of living compared to other wealthy countries? The answer is very simple: imperialism. The US has a long and ongoing history of imperial interference in Latin America, and the countries closest to it, which are precisely the ones where most of these migrants come from, have been some of its worst victims. The US has invaded these countries, couped their governments, interfered in their politics, backed fascist dictatorships there, and more. Basically, they've done everything that they possibly can to ensure that as much of the wealth as possible from these countries flows to the USA, rather than to the people who actually live there. This has also been heavily compounded in recent decades by the USA's disastrous exploitation of its war on drugs. The illegal drug industry responded to this crackdown by itself becoming heavily militarized and much more violent. Combined with the huge demand for narcotics in the USA and the fact that these countries have the horrid luck of being right there along the transportation routes to get the narcotics to the US, this has rendered huge parts of these countries to be not just stuck in poverty, but also incredibly dangerous. Far more than they were before. And that's saying a lot, since many weren't exactly safe places before either. When hundreds of millions of people find themselves in a situation like that, it's logical and expected that many of them will decide to take their chances and head for a richer country. And in this case, not just any rich country, but specifically the rich country that has played a huge part in keeping them in poverty in the first place, and that has looted a lot of their country's wealth in doing so. The racists who believe in the white genocide conspiracy theory obviously aren't against their countries imperializing others, and especially not other countries that they view as being non-white. So partly to distract from the real reasons for why this happens by positing this alternative explanation, and partly because they're just generic Nazi-style racists, they latched onto the tried and tested trope of a global Jewish conspiracy, which in this case, they claim somehow incentivizes these migrants to travel to the USA not to seek a better life or anything like that, but rather for the explicit purpose of diluting their supposedly white gene pool. Obviously, that's insane, and it's rather just simple material interest. Things have been kept so bad for these migrants at home that traveling to the US at very great personal risk should probably end up having to work some really shitty job in very precarious circumstances legitimately seems appealing to them in comparison. It's not a good thing or a desirable thing that so many people feel compelled to leave their home countries to go and be exploited for cheap labor by capitalists in another country. It's not something to celebrate, as liberals often nauseatingly do in response to right-wing anti-immigration rhetoric. The ideal would instead be that these countries were not poor and thus significantly better places to live, ensuring that any migration would be entirely voluntary, spurred by things like personal preferences rather than desperation. Liberals, however, don't like to acknowledge the real causes of this migration. Similar to the white supremacists, they're interested in obfuscating the imperialism of Western countries, as they tend to love them and uphold them as their most shining examples. So they outright deny that this imperialism even exists, and often even instead frame it as being like mutually beneficial, rather than exploitative or damaging in any way, shape or form. For them, this kind of desperate migration happens because Western countries are just sort of superior, and the circumstances in poorer countries somehow has absolutely nothing to do with centuries of Western colonialism and imperialism, and certainly not with continued Western aggression and their continued exploitation today. This is, ironically, quite similar to what white supremacists tend to believe. Because of this, liberals can't, and really don't want to, deal with the white genocide conspiracy theory at one of its most important roots. The best that they can do is to focus on how good the migration actually is for the first world countries that receive it. And yeah, it is good for them. It helps them to counteract the low birth rates that tend to come with higher living standards, for example. And it gives their capitalists a constant source of precarious labor, helping them to find candidates for the low-paying, less desirable jobs the native population tends to be less willing to do or less willing to pay for. And when it comes to actual more regular legal migrants who tend to have things like university educations, the receiving country benefits even more. They pay absolutely nothing for the many years of their education, but end up getting the benefit of their expertise, while their origin country loses it. But you can abstract migrants into little more than numbers and statistics all you want. You can talk all you want about how awesome your country is and how that's why it supposedly attracts them. But at the end of the day, you're still doing very little to get to one of the most important problems of the this conspiracy, which is why those people are leaving their countries in the first place. One of the big purposes of the white genocide conspiracy theory, along with many others, is to misdirect attention away from that very question. And liberals, because they largely agree with the white supremacists about Western countries just sort of being better, and Western imperialism not actually being a thing at all, or even being a good thing, are thus unable to contest the conspiracy theory at one of its most important roots. In summary, liberals are unable to critique the capitalist world system and its inevitable results, such as imperialism, because the capitalist world system is their system, and they're not invested in explaining its problems. Rather, they're invested in hiding or denying them, and this renders them impotent when they're faced with some of the most dangerous and widespread right-wing conspiracy theories of today. This is because said conspiracy theories tend to be based on at least some element of truth, often an actually existing problem caused by capitalism, which they then blame on something else entirely, thus diverting attention away from the real cause of this problem. And the sad reality is that, in spite of the tendency of many modern liberals to grandstand as social progressives, diverting attention away from the problems of capitalism tends to suit them just fine, because their priority, above all, is to maintain it. They're not truthfully, deep down, opposed to the right-wing gurus who hatch these sorts of conspiracies. They're rather dancing with them, as both share the same main concern. That's the end of the video. Make sure to subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. And if you really like my work, consider supporting me on Patreon and Ko-fi, because without my supporters over there, I could not produce more content. Thanks again to Atlas VPN for sponsoring this video. Take advantage of their summer deal for signing up for a free year-long Atlas VPN premium subscription for just $1.83 per month, with 3 months extra thrown in for free, and with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Get all the benefits of Atlas VPN and more for this ridiculously low price. That's all. See you next time. Now I'd just like to thank all of my supporters on Patreon and Ko-fi, and especially my $25 plus supporters, RS, Joel Cribson, Arthur Sidney Jones, Milton Friedman, Diego Common, Potter, Ronaldo Alfava, Exos, Stephen Jordan, Esmalard, Michigan Finns, William Tomlinson, Broslin, Tintin, and my $10 plus patrons, Dropnik, Wesley Potts, Nibiru, Justin Bailey 77, Happy Nephron, Ant, Melissa Gomez, Professional Tinky, Minijan, Lee Fiorine, Johnny Rocket, Sir Splendid, XXXX, JG, Big Man, Can't Kill Less, Firefox 42, Max Helland, Jack Paul, Mira. That's all. See you next time.
Taking Alpha. Enemy RCXD detected. We're losing Charlie. Losing Bravo. We lost C. Losing B. Locking down Charlie. Hostile counter UAV established above. Hostile RCXD in your AO. Losing Bravo.
What's going on, YouTube.com? It's me, your host, YouTube.com. We spent some time looking at the manosphere on this channel. Content for dudes and boys and dudes only. But what if there was a manosphere out there that was, instead of big manosphere, it was tiny manosphere? Little bite-sized chunks of manosphere that you could put into a blender, blend up into a sweet drink out of. Well, there is, and that's where YouTube Shorts comes in. And no, I'm not talking about the garments. YouTube Shorts, what's next? YouTube Pants? Come on.
Locking down all zones. Net call. Enemy
Over the last year or so, I have seen a lot of comments talking about how swiping through YouTube Shorts will inevitably lead you to the Jordan Petersons, the Andrew Tates, and the other wild boys of internet for dudes. So today we're going to look at some examples and check them out.
If someone breaks into my home, my job, right, I'm the protector, is my wife and my daughter know exactly who my wife gets. My daughter, she's calling 911. I am standing at the top of the steps, or I'm going down to go to work. I'm going to go down to work, and it's my house, and I work hard for it.
Wait, is he saying he's going to go to work? Like he's going to walk downstairs and walk past the home invader, get in his car and drive to his podcast studio, which is what I assume he does for work? That would be a funny plot twist, but I think he means go to work as in violently destroy the invader.
My son's there. When he's little, he would be with mom. As he gets older, he's 28 years old right now. His role changes. I will have him at the top of the stairs, right, at that choke point, with a gun, holding that line so no one comes up if something were to happen to me as I go down and clear that house.
Calling your bedroom hallway a choke point. It is cool and normal to live your life like you're playing Call of Duty all the time. Step back, son, while I tactically insert myself into this burglar until he's gone forever.
I'm gonna go down and go to work because that's my house and I work hard for it.
I have nothing against like self-defense and home defense, you know, whatever you gotta do to keep your place safe. But there's absolutely this fetishized, violent right-wing fantasy of finally being able to crack your knuckles and pull out your bazooka and blast your Amazon package delivery man to smithereens because he rang your doorbell one too many times. It is very funny to me and it is very silly.
As he progresses and gets older and I grow older, right? I become the old warrior, 70 or 80 years old. Then it's his job, his responsibility to step up and take my place.
I'm sorry, the old warrior? Nothing quite screams watchful, protector, ancient warrior like a skin-tight Lacoste V-neck and matching skin-tight H&M stretch jeans. This literally could be like body paint. You know how people paint onto their skin to make it look like they're wearing clothes, but they're actually naked? This could be that. And this is not me checking his masculinity for wearing tight clothes, you know, not at all. I just feel like in order to be a warrior, you need blood circulation to your extremities. That would help.
If you're a man born in a woman's body, that's biologically determined. But if you're a woman born in a woman's body, that's socially constructed. It's like, okay, good luck with that theory.
Good luck with that theory. Good luck with that theory, buddy boy. JP's got some real snark. So what's going on here is he's presenting a false dichotomy, right? Where gender being a social construct somehow contradicts the fact that gender dysphoria through the medical community has proven treatments, things that help people live fuller, healthier lives. There's really only a contradiction there if you make one up and if you're not really being honest.
I don't believe you can be a man born in a man's body. What I believe is that there are some people who feel alienation towards their bodies and they want to remove
Well,
body
everybody
parts.
feels that.
Right, but they feel it to such an extent that clinically the best treatment for them is to transition and live as if they were the other
Yeah,
sex.
well, I don't think that there's any evidence that that's clinically the best treatment. We certainly don't know enough to make that presupposition, and I think we're playing with fire assuming that that's the case. The long-term outcome studies certainly don't demonstrate that.
Yeah, so he's just lying there, just straight up lying. If he's familiar with the literature, he's lying. If he's not familiar with the literature, he's just talking out of his butt cheeks. I'll link some studies in the description about this. So what's frustrating about clips like this, with this orchestral epic situation going on, is a lot of people come away with just the objectively wrong conclusion about how this treatment works and what's actually going on. Please into that sort of bigotry that says that being trans is a mental illness, that affirming identity is somehow harmful, which is just not the case. Like comments like this: yeah, right, the best treatment when they have the highest suicidal case after the treatment. Me, when I just lie. And 6.4 thousand people like it. Damn, that response. One that unpacks clinically the GOAT. Oh, 3,000 likes. Oh, smartest man of our generation. Clap, 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 clap. People just can be convinced of anything when someone is like a compelling speaker. Bruh. I'm short, ugly, bald, not very smart. Yeah, I feel freaking trapped too. So I identify as tall, good-looking, smart, and rich. Somebody please explains this to the ladies because nobody respects my identity. Yeah, I mean, respecting your identity doesn't mean people have to wanna fuck you for it. I fuck with a short king having confidence, you know, but what does that have to do with trans people? The Daily Wire and its consequences have been a disaster for the human race. Hey, what's up, people? It's Noah from a different place here to take a quick break in the video to thank today's sponsor, which is HelloFresh. One of my goals for this upcoming year was to eat better, healthier food and pay less for it, and HelloFresh is a great way to do just that. There are over 35 tasty recipes to choose from each week, which is awesome, especially with the carb smart and calorie smart options. You can even customize meals by swapping out proteins or sides, upgrading proteins, or adding protein to veggie dishes. HelloFresh sent me over a box with 3 pretty big meals in, and I decided to prepare for you all and myself the squash agnolotti with bacon and scallops. It was super easy to make. The boxes come with recipe cards and all the ingredients you need to make the meals, and it turned out very tasty, and I even had a lot of leftovers. I've never been a super cooking kind of guy, but I wanted to be, and HelloFresh made it easy to take that step. I am actually pretty happy with this experience, and I'm excited to try more recipes and improve my cooking swag. Use my link in the description or go to HelloFresh.com and use code PODNOAHJAN21 for 21 free meals and free shipping. Once you click, my description will live update to count the purchases. Thanks again to HelloFresh. Now let's get back to the video.
This woman, she already had some kind of masculine features, like deeper voice, deeper whatever. She decided to be a man because she wanted to see how men were treated. Not sex change, an experiment. She ended up killing herself after the beginning and half of this because she said she was treated so horribly by women that she couldn't even believe that this is how men lived.
Okay, so the person she's talking about is called Nora Vincent, was an author and an LA Times columnist. It's not really clear based on her writings that the story that's being told by this podcaster is true, that the reason for her medically assisted suicide was her experience living as a man. Because she dealt with a lot of women stuff, it seems like. I think one of the conclusions in this article about her is very interesting. She was suffering, she wrote, for the same reason that many of the men she met were suffering. Their assigned gender roles, she found, were suffocating them and alienating them from themselves. I did read an article one time that was really interesting that profiled a group of trans men's experiences before and after transition, and how there are real social stigmas that men face that they, before transitioning didn't experience. And it's really interesting, And so stories like that are somewhat touched on by this YouTube short where the woman's talking about the difference in treatment, the expectation that men are supposed to be stoic and strong and not, share their feelings. But then the conclusion of the video kind of like blames feminism.
You want to support us, you want to be there for us, but
falling
you
behind,
guys are
Crimson.
supposed to be. You're supposed to be the strong one. You're supposed to be these things, and yet we've been fighting to be your equal, fighting to be the alpha, fighting to be, and out of
We're winning.
kindness, you
Keep
guys are
it that
stepping
way.
back, but it's a losing war for both of us.
She's like, oh, women are all trying to be so alpha these days and stepping up, and men are just stepping back and saying, oh, I'm not going to say anything. But that doesn't have to come with men sharing how they feel. I think it's actually probably the opposite. That the bog standard patriarchal expectation is that you're supposed to not share anything. Moving away from that is good for everybody, I don't know.
I'll be honest, men and women aren't equal.
Hostile scout
I'm sorry if
pulse
that
in your
hurts
AO.
your little stupid ears.
Oh, I'm so triggered. Come on, dude. Wow. 660,000 likes for a joke that's been told so many times you should be banned from comedy for life for doing it. Triggered liberals, all I'm hearing is crybaby.
We're not equal. Because equal means the word same. We're not the same. In fact, that's my favorite thing about a woman, is that she's not a dude.
My favorite thing about you, girl, is that you're not a dude, because that would mean I would be gay, and I'm not gay. How flattering of a compliment to be able to hear that. Wow, it's every girl's dream, really.
People try to make it equal. I want it to be equalized. No, you don't. When any one of you got a babysitter tonight, how many of you picked a dude? None of you. Not because you're sexist, but because you're not dumb. Because the baby would fall off the balcony and you'd be like, why was the baby on the balcony? He's like, I don't know, I came out to smoke. And you're like,
Weird, strange gender expectation there that guys can't be good babysitters. The same thing that says, like, guys can't be good fathers. Oh, he's too busy on the grill and watching football, he's gonna fumble his baby or whatever. Men are actually biologically incapable of being caring and responsible, and that's a value I uphold and I think is good to impart upon other people. All my boy babysitters in the comments, shout out. Let me know what's good. I don't know, man. Gender humor, it's really just not my thing. It just gets old so quick, Especially the random dig at trans men, right?
quit pretending we're the same. I don't walk around, I could have a baby if they let me. I can't.
Like, yes, men can get pregnant. Trans men are a thing. It's really not that complicated. Literally no person is trying to say that a cis man can get pregnant. That's not what, nobody's saying that. When common sense is refreshing, society is failing. I love these so much. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. This is what's wrong with modern society. Oh.
Did you know that women leave men 80% of the time? And if they're college educated, it's 90. So if you get divorced, it's 80% of the time like the woman leaves. And one of the number one indicators of divorce is actually if the woman out-earns the man.
Oh, I love that. I actually love that. I can't lie.
You love that? You don't think that's kind of...
Oh my girl, you go get that. You go get that. Like, yeah, you go get that.
Really?
Yeah.
Like why is there like a lack of empathy for men?
It's not like empathy.
But there is, because like they're breaking up a family and lifelong commitment at home, and your reaction is you go get the bag, sis, or like I'm so happy for you. when that's actually a really, like, that's a sad situation. Like, your wife is leaving you.
The first issue with the framing that's being presented here is that the statistics about who initiates split-ups somehow indicate who is to blame and who is making the wrong decision for a relationship. It doesn't even get into any of the reasons why a woman might initiate split-ups at a higher percentage than men. One of the biggest reasons is a disparity in the willingness to be a caregiver and spend time facilitating a family. And this is just very well documented throughout history. Or like cheating, because men statistically cheat more than women. It's also misconstrued here as the reasons why a woman leaving a man because she is more financially flexible can be seen as a good thing, because for so long, financial dependence on a man, which is again socially constructed based on how work and gender roles play out, meant that you really couldn't. You didn't have the agency to leave if that was the right thing to do. And like, I don't know what the percentage of justified breakups is, but I do know sometimes things just don't work out for people, and holding it against every woman in the world is just probably not great. I don't know, seems weird. Method over here in the baby boy manosphere, which is presenting a warped view of society or its values based on viral clips of the most extreme representations of like anti-fat phobia arguments, stripped of the context and nuance that is required in a lot of conversations about things like fat phobia, and then immediately cutting to some clips of dudes getting pumped up at the gym and they're like, this is what they want to take from you. They want to get you out of the gym and all up on them damn genders. But it's like, what structural element of society that has any power whatsoever is pushing any of the stuff that they play at the start, right? It's Nico Cotto avocado clips. There's someone that people just will never stop talking about, how what he is doing is bad. Like, I'm all for a little gym motivation, right? But why does it have to be a little bit fascist, you know? I don't know, seems not great. Oh, here we go. We may as well finish it out with a quick F&F classic. We don't like it, actually.
I see a whole bunch of empty fingers with no ring fingers, so what y'all need to keep a woman?
Being married is not
One thing about the show is half of it is the guys in the room telling the women to shut up and let them finish, but then they just go on to say the dumbest shit. Let's just, let's play.
Are you gonna shut up and finish? It is not a prize for a man to be married. It's like, me, I got married. Most guys got married. That's why a woman was like, I got married. That's why you go fight and clap and fall and put his eyes out to catch a good day at weddings because he's gonna get married next.
Oh no, God, I love that. There's actually a biological imperative to catch the bouquet because that is the number one indicator of when it's person getting married.
To be clear, this conversation started off of men like us, and that's why I laughed off. I wouldn't want none of y'all to provoke me. That's why I laughed.
We don't want you there. You don't get men like that all the time.
Nobody like you.
And this is not to sound insulting.
No man I would want would be on no podcast.
This podcast is the only reason why you and I are in the same room. Seriously.
Oh, these are so hard to watch, man. Oh my God. I don't know the context leading up to this, but I know how this podcast goes, man. She probably made one little comment that damaged their fragile egos and they freaked the fuck out about it. Also, really no indication that this woman is a feminist. She's just really feminist getting obliterated means okay, you're talking to a woman. And as we all know, feminism is for girls. That is actually a common misconception if you're watching this and you like these YouTube shorts and you are wanting to sort of learn about it. Feminism for everybody, you know? Google it. The pinned comment with 26,000 likes says, this lady talks like she decides which man will marry her. Oh, okay, wait, so does she just not have a say? Or what? What is it? What are you trying to say here? Is this a pro-arranged marriage only YouTube channel? Oh shit, the biggest collab since Avengers and Fortnite. We got Andrew Tatum and JP on the split screen. Let's check this crap out.
If you weaken men, then if they become weak enough, they'll no longer be a threat. And I argue that point absolutely. I think the most dangerous men on earth are the weak men. And if you look at men who have no emotional control, that's what they're trying to teach us to have. say, listen, you're a man, you're allowed to just cry all the time and have no emotional control, no stoicism, just react to your emotions. You know what happens when you tell men to just react to their emotions? Anger. You have school shootings.
Weak is not good. Wait a second, what? Hold on. The guys who express their emotions and let them out and don't pen them up are the ones doing the violence? Another little tricky little conflation there between emotional health and emotional control. Emotional health being somehow indicative of instability with your emotions, an inability to not react to them. The most dangerous man in the world is a weak man, the man who is not a threat. And those are actually the biggest threat because they're the ones doing a lot of violence. Very smart.
School shootings.
Weak is not good. The people who shoot up the high schools, they're weak.
You have rape, you have violence. That's what happens when you tell men to have no emotional control.
Life is a very difficult process. You're not prepared for it unless you have the capacity to be dangerous. Those who have swords and know how to use them but keep them sheathed will inherit the world. You have to be powerful and formidable and then peaceful in that order. And that's not the same as being naive and weak and harmless, which is what young men are being.
I had my controllers on the wrong setting.
We're back. Sort of right-wing violence fantasy. Swords and guns, knives, being able to just have them in the sheath, being able to chop a guy in half.
Bring it in, recolor.
It's anime. I don't know, man. Most of these guys just kind of like YouTubers, podcasters. The most violence they'll ever experience is like traffic on the way to their studio. I mean, Andrew Tate was like a kickboxer, right? So I guess there's more of a claim to the control over violence. But young teen boys watch that and they say, that's so true. I'm gonna apply this to my real life, as though kickboxing or violent sports are just that. They're sports, they're competitions. Not really great to implement into your daily life. But at what point does the self-defense preparation become a gleeful excitedness to finally be able to use that shit and go nuts, go to work?
I'm gonna go down and go to work because that's my house and I work hard for it.
I don't know, man. Just silly. Silly fun times over here on the tube.com. I'm gonna probably end it here. Just remember to speak softly and carry a big bazooka, laser gun, Spartan laser. That's how to be a real man. Protective, vengeful guardian. If I ever get home invaded, I'm gonna just be a spooky critter in the corner. I think that's probably a better way to go, because better to be spooky than to be violent or whatever. Okay, see you guys later. Bye bye. Thanks for watching. Bye. See ya.
Right road. Uber.
This video is sponsored by Ren. Hello everyone, welcome back to google.com/youtube.com's best website, my channel, the Noah Samson channel. I'm here filming at a historical site. It's the Yellow Brick Wall. They took the Yellow Brick Road and they could have sort of flipped it in a direction to make it a wall in solidarity with Berlin. It's all fun games to flip your shit up. You read the title correctly. Red Pill TikToks, that's what we're looking at today, everybody. You might be asking, Noah, how did you come up with such a groundbreaking and original piece of investigative journalism on a topic no one's ever talked about on YouTube? Alpha Male Podcast, how did you even dig up this type of crap? What are you, some kind of journalist freak? And well, that's a great question, dear viewer. I got this idea by searching Red Pill on TikTok and clicking on the first 10 videos. I did this because to be honest, I need to post a video for a sponsor, and my psyche is tethered to the machinations of capitalism. I just can't say no. I'm a bad person, okay? But so are the guys that we're looking at today. They're bad and they're weird, and that's okay, because we get to make fun of them, and it's a fun, good time.
Girls are gonna have sex with any guy they want to.
You're supposed to have sex with him whenever he says.
Women simply just don't care. Care too much about the bitch.
Trophy system was eliminated.
We're losing Alpha. Locking down Charlie.
For some reason, half of these videos start with workout footage with a text overlay. This one says, the cold reality men need to accept when dating a woman. And this guy is doing seated dumbbell shoulder presses. His form looks fine. It looks good. Great job, man. But cold reality, let's hear it. I'm ready for this splash of ice. Harden my nips up, Mr. Red Pill man. They're gonna be so hard, they're gonna turn into their own little pill-shaped nipples. The nip pill. The nipple. Nip pill. Thank you for your time. For spending it with me. They paid you for this. When the rapture comes, don't say we didn't deserve it. Okay, YouTubers are real. It says.
We're losing Charlie. Securing Alpha.
Relationship.
Grenade incoming.
She cannot submit. She's not for you.
Testing request received. UAV exiting your grid.
You know what? Why don't we just Let's do the sponsor thing. I'm gonna do the ad read so we can have a breather because it's gonna be maybe a lot.
Losing B. We're losing Alpha.
So thank you to Ren for sponsoring today's video. Ren is a website where you can calculate your carbon footprint, then offset this by funding a diverse mix of carbon reduction projects like tree planting, mineral weathering, rainforest protection, and more. All you have to do is answer a few questions about your lifestyle in order to calculate your carbon footprint, and then you can offset this by choosing any one of Ren's specifically curated projects to donate to. Once you sign up to make a monthly contribution to offset your carbon footprint, you receive monthly updates from the projects you support. You get to see what your money is spent on, with photos and details of every tree planted, every acre reforested, and every Cuban person that you find and say, hey, what's up? Every ton of carbon offset. Ren vets their projects vigorously and only picks projects that are able to demonstrate measurable results that have a long-lasting impact on carbon reduction and that wouldn't have happened otherwise without Ren's funding. Ren is now also sending 10% of member subscriptions towards climate policy groups like Clean Air Task Force and Carbon 180. In another video, I spoke of one of Ren's projects that I really liked, which was biochar in California. I'm a biochar food, but another one of the projects I found that's really great is the tech-enabled Amazon rainforest protection, which works with indigenous peoples in the Peruvian Amazon to provide technology like drones to better survey the land and detect deforestation early on. This project was shown to reduce deforestation by over 50% in the first year alone, and is an extremely cost-effective solution to protecting forests. I'll link some information on this project below. It's very cool. Check it out. Great job. Nice job. Let's go team. Offset your carbon footprint on Ren. The first 100 people to sign up using the link in the description will get 10 extra trees planted in their name. Your name, like the anime. All right. Thank you, Ren. Now let's get back into some pain and suffering.
If she cannot submit to you and the things that you want her to do, she's not for you.
Submission. So that's setting up a bit of a sort of, shall we call it, an unhealthy relationship dynamic. Submission requires an imbalance of power or a restriction of agency of one party, and that's not great. You know, we don't love to see that. Setting up a relationship on an uneven, coercive foundation. Nah. But let's hear him out. Let's see where he goes with this. I'm sure it'll be totally fine.
Example number 1. If you tell her, if you want to make this more exclusive, baby girl, no male friends. No male friends mean no big bro, no best friend, no Tommy, no Jerry, none of it.
No Tommy, no Jerry. Tom and Jerry. You're talking about the animated cartoon Tom and Jerry? Did your girlfriend leave you for Tom and Jerry? Did you walk in on your ex masturbating to the Warner Brothers cartoon of a rival cat and mouse? Honestly, join the club. Okay, countless marriages have been ruined by that one single clip of Tom the cat smoking that fat stinky joint with a pistol, and at some point you're just gonna have to come to terms with that and move on. Okay, Lord knows I've had to do that. Those critters have sent me to the divorce courts 4 separate times. Yeah, I haven't told you guys, but I'm a quadruple divorcee, and yeah, I'm still a bad bitch. You don't see me moping around in the MGTOW forums because of it. That's just life, baby.
No Tommy, no Jerry. If she doesn't comply with that energy, she's for the streets. She's not for you. Either she could be for you or she could be for the streets. It's all depending on who she is inside, what her DNA is going to tell her.
My DNA told me to have sex with an animated mouse because he dropped an anvil on his best friend's head. Evolutionary biology 101, baby. Creation is destroyed with this one simple truth. Okay, but obviously there's some problematic stuff going on here, so why don't we take a second to engage and break it down for any resident red pillars or black pillars in the audience. The issue with this guy's prescriptions here is that he's advocating for incredibly controlling behavior founded on insecurities. Now, are there situations where male friends try and end up swooping in on a relationship, and are concerns about infidelity with male friends sometimes valid? Yeah, of course they are. We can acknowledge that this is something that happens without making blanket statements about the lingering potential infidelity of every single woman on earth, and without setting up double standards about which partner ought to have license in the relationship to banish the other person's friendships into the shadow realm for fear that they just cannot control their sexual desires. What I hear when I hear him say this is, I was hurt in the past and now I'm projecting it onto my audience. I also hear, because of the pain from the past and my inability or unwillingness to come to terms with it, I do not trust women enough to be able to evaluate their own relationships with other people and how they might conflict with our own. And I think all the men watching me should also think like that if they don't already. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, man, this guy should just go to therapy. And you would not be wrong to think that. I happen to agree. But what I've also seen lately is how telling men or men like this to just go to therapy, that can be counterproductive. They're usually not receptive to that because statements like that are just kind of played out, I guess. Again, they're true objectively, but just comes off as like a default response, right? Little dismissive, little condescending, not to mention the accessibility portion of therapy, how it's expensive, how it might not be available in wherever people are at. So my healthy boys only solution here is to just try to communicate with your partner. If you have insecurities or suspicions about the motivations of someone in your partner's life, it can't hurt to just talk to them about that. It's definitely not an easy thing to do, but bottling up your feelings and not talking about them can only make things worse, especially if that results in you taking it out on someone that doesn't deserve it. I feel like that's like fairly common. And if in the case that you do end up getting cheated on, that's really fucked up. But the truth is, sometimes people just cheat on people and it's fucked up. And you can't use those individual instances to just like paint an entire gender as being inherently biologically predisposed to acting sus, you know? Because if we did that for everyone, then every gender on the planet would be permanently branded as cheaters. And as we all know, once a cheater, always a cheater. So then everyone, everything, everywhere, all the time is everyone cheating and sucking and fucking, and it just becomes a mess and the earth is a hellhole, even more than it already is. Okay, healthy boys rant over. Let's finish this clip.
I'm gonna tell y'all this right now, fellas. Some women just can't give up the male attention. No, some women just can't give up the big bro because the big bro imprinted her.
What? Sorry, what did he say? He said imprinted? Is that what I think? Does he mean like we're... Man, okay. I hate writing out just like a long, heartfelt message about how like empathizing with someone's like opinions and then they turn out to be an absolute hobgoblin. The big bro imprinted her. Life is pain. Let's just move on.
Never talk about these three things when with a woman. Your shortcomings in life. The reason being, women simply just don't care. They will just happily wait at the finish line and whoever is the winner gets to go.
Oh my God, I hate this. I hate it so much. I really hate it. Dude, stop projecting onto your audiences from your past bad experiences with women. Challenge, difficulty level, impossible, difficulty level, legendary, through the fire and flames on expert, round 99, Nocturne, Toten type beat. Yeah! Sometimes you throw in cultural references to get comments and engagement and you say, thank you. Thank you so much to society.
Women don't necessarily appreciate the journey we may have had to take to get to where we are. And this is because women expect us to be the backbone and to be strong.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm on my empathy arc. Let me just briefly engage with the marketplace of ideas on this one. I'll make it quick. It is absolutely true that society, which does include women, by the way, based society holds expectations of men to be strong and to be the backbone and to keep our emotions and insecurities inside. Many men feel this way. Like, for example, this dude here. And many women also feel this way or implicitly reinforce it in their actions. It's actually a construction of the red pillars, cover your ears, the patriarchy.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
That we should all be fighting to dismantle. In Bell Hooks, The Will to Change, Men, Masculinity, and Love, she addresses how this social construction affects all of us, writing, yeah, we're on bread tube mode, baby, including written citations and crap. The reality is that men are hurting and that the whole culture responds to them by saying, please do not tell us what you feel. If we cannot heal what we cannot feel, by supporting patriarchal culture that socializes men to deny feelings, we doom them to live in states of emotional numbness. We construct a culture where male pain can have no voice, where male hurt cannot be named or healed. Just like a brief interjection from me, not Bell Hooks. There's a reason why basically the most mainstream and popular place where masculinity and stuff is being discussed is in the manosphere. And that's really bad because there's a lot of bad stuff going on over there, you know? So I'm glad there's a lot of good content coming out, like critiquing it and being specific, because maybe there's a new niche of content that we can all start up, which is cool guys being dudes. All right, back to the hooks. It is not just men who do not take their pain seriously. Most women do not want to deal with male pain if it interferes with the satisfaction of female desire. When feminist movements led to men's liberation, including male exploration of feelings, some women mocked male emotional expression with the same disgust and contempt as sexist men, despite all the expressed feminist longing for men of feeling. When men worked to get in touch with feelings, no one really wanted to reward them. So it's super long, I suppose, but I feel like it's pretty relevant to the notion that men are expected to deal with their problems in a certain way that keeps it all inside. And so we can acknowledge all of this while also being absolutely clear that it's not good. It's not a good situation that we just went over. And so operating within this system based on the norms of the system, that should not be encouraged. We should try to unlearn these notions and fight against them. And one way for men to do this is to be more open to the idea of talking about and sharing their feelings and insecurities. That's why it's so frustrating to see messages like the one that this dude is putting out gain so much traction. Because despite being presented as advice, it's just actively harming both men and women. So the moral of the story is that patriarchy is bad. Misogyny's cringe, yo. Get it out. Get rid of it. If anyone wants to figure out how to do this, DM me. Ladies, DM me. Don't do that, please. They're closed. The DMs are closed. Well, that's about enough virtue signaling for today. I think I'm gonna kick my feet up and retire to my study. All right, that's all the empathy that I have left in my body. Goof off mode activated.
Gossiping or talking badly about other people. Doing this is just simply insecure, and girls will try to get this out of you. But instead, if she talks about another guy, compliment him and say how cool he is. Doing this rather than talking badly will show high self-esteem.
This is such strange advice because it's like, yeah, don't just like gossip about someone because you think someone wants you to gossip with them. But also, if someone's being an asshole, you should be allowed to be like, yeah, that guy's being an asshole, kind of. Babe, in history class, we're learning all about World War II. And I gotta say, that Hitler guy, he was a real piece of work. You know, honestly, I don't fuck with your toxic energy, okay? The guy, he made some good art. That's all I'm gonna say.
And finally, never talk about serious and controversial topics. It steals away from the fun and playful vibe. Never let this happen. Always keep it alive and fun.
Yeah, this restaurant sounds nice, and 6 o'clock works for me. But I just want to ask, are you vaccinated? Why are you asking me that? That's kind of like private medical information. It's private medical information. I mean, I'm immunocompromised, so it's like especially relevant to me, but in your second Tinder photo, you have like a neck tattoo showing. It's a Barstool Sports neck tattoo, so I'm just assuming that you're not. Why does everything have to be so political these days? You're killing the light and fluffy vibe. Just relax, lady, okay? And I'll see you at Arby's at 6 o'clock.
Basically, girls are gonna have sex with any guy they want to. Guys have sex with who they can. But in the long run, men are gonna marry who they want to. Women are gonna marry who they can.
Ooh, that's a fucking bar.
Oh my god, you can tell he was really struggling to make it all the way through that like metaphor parable thing. Girls are gonna have sex if they want to. Guys, on the other hand, they're gonna have sex with who they get married, who they wish, who they can. So, okay, can't, you won't. And these guys are what you'd get if you injected Tweedledee and Tweedledum with Polo Ralph Lauren cologne and Nissan GTR brake fluid. And that's okay. It's okay. It is what it is.
Ooh, that's a fucking bar.
If the person that's agreeing with your opinion happens to be drinking a Four Loko and wearing a no jumper t-shirt while podcasting, you might want to double check to make sure you're not saying some dumb weirdo shit.
That's like common knowledge in the grown men realm, like they call it the red pill, right?
The grown men realm? Oh my god, is that what the manosphere is? My YouTube algorithm after I watch 15 seconds of a Jordan Peterson room cleaning tutorial?
I hereby banish you to the grown men realm. Suffer for eternity.
The idea being put forth here can just be easily disproved by saying there are plenty of counterexamples to these generalizations. Thank you and good night. Many men are not able to marry who they want to, and many women are. And the same goes with the sex thing, right? But also the more important question to ask is like, who does this type of thinking actually help? Like, what purpose does it serve, you know? The only real world outcome of this kind of like dumb bro science framing, sorry, I mean this reality of the dating market, what's all this, you haven't seen how deep the rabbit hole goes, ooh, so cool, oh, so cool. All this does is like make dudes vindictive and condescending towards women who are over the age of 30 or whatever, and also making women who like are having legitimate struggles in the hookup world just feel like shit about themselves.
When you bring that up in front of a female who's either in her prime or a little bit past her prime, they get mad when you bring that up, but it's true. Ooh, that's a fucking...
Wow, this is so useful and helpful. Thank you so much, boys. I'm glad you started a podcast. The world is better off with that being a thing that exists. Again with the workout footage intro, I love it. It's so good. So good. They look good. I like the idea that this guy isn't actually ripped. He's just sending an extremely urgent or angry text, and that's why his arms look like that. Like he's vice gripping his phone. Like a temporary Captain America iMessage effect. I don't know. What are we doing? What are we doing?
Get your bread right, G. Work on your physique. Sharpen your mind. That's the most important thing, because your mind is not in the right place. It's in the wrong place. You're too emotional. You care too much.
I do care too much. It's my toxic trait. I'm too loving and too empathetic. I'm an empath. Okay, what can I say? I can't do anything about this. I'm empathetic and caring, but like in a hot and sexy villainous kind of way. Like, ooh. Shut the fuck up.
That's why I made that video 2 years ago screaming at you niggas talking about you care too much about the bitch.
God damn it. Okay, so this is what every Red Pill thing is like, okay? It's like, starts off with some perfectly generic advice. Go to the gym. Get some financial resources so you can live a little more freely. Focus on hobby. And then it ends with some heartbroken goofball biting his lip and telling you to just like dominate your partner and make them submit.
Care too much about the bitch.
Always keep yourself in an emotionally offensive position in your relationships. It's good, just in case.
There's nothing wrong with caring about a woman. There's nothing wrong with like you just can't care as much.
Wow, fuck. It's profound, dude. Just a quick question. How do I figure out how much she cares? It's like a scale of 1 to 10 sort of thing. Should I just ask her and then compare her number with mine and sort of figure it out from there? Or do I just act like I don't care, even if I do, so I can make her think I don't? So then she's worried about if I'm gonna leave her, and it's like, oh, I got that over you. And that way she'll follow me on and comply with my demands due to this manufactured insecurity? Is that what you meant? No, but okay, let's break this down for a second. Let's parse through Mr. Red Pill's trauma to see if we can pull anything out of value. If you've ever been in a relationship situation where you, like, in quotes, care more than the other person, so like you were feeling them more than they were feeling you, or you were putting forth effort that was not being reciprocated, right? Of course, that is a shitty experience, right? It's demeaning, you know, especially if eventually that breakup does happen and you're like, oh, I saw it coming all along. So you blame yourself and yada, 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 yada. You can see how someone going through this might want to or have to develop an emotional barrier, you know, to protect themselves from being hurt, whatever. Now, understanding why someone might behave in this way is important, obviously, but that understanding doesn't excuse the manipulative behavior that's being suggested here by this guy. Actively choosing to not care more than the other person or to make sure that they care more than you, that's like a form of, like, you know, domination. Again, it places the safety of your own feelings over the consideration for their feelings, which in turn places the same constraints around the relationship that caused you to act this way in the first place. Having been through a one-sided situation does not grant you a license to put someone else through that same situation just because it hurt you. Relationships are mutual things. So like if at any point you're looking for ways so you can have something over somebody and use it against them potentially to say like, I have power over you to leave and not be hurt, that's bad. That's bad. Welcome back to another episode of This Is Bad. Sorry. God, I'm sorry, you guys. I said I was just gonna goof around and my empathy keeps leaking out of me. Oops. Yes, dude, yes. Looking chucked, my guy. My dude. Just to preface this next one, if this video hasn't been cis heteronormative enough for you, get ready. You're in for a treat, okay? This is quite possibly the straightest video on Earth, and I might be the straightest YouTuber on Earth. Doing this during Pride Month, it feels homophobic, okay? But I gotta live my truth, all right? Women.
When you're on a date, who should pay?
Here we go. This is a classic topic of debate in the straight people zone. Who should pay for the date? Ladies, fellas, NBs, who's bringing the wallet out? It's up there in the canon of hetero philosophical debates like gay son, thought daughter, and so on.
I know. I mean, that's what I told them. You know, I'm sorry. But say I'm dating.
First, I just want to point out that the answer to this question of who should pay on dates will vary considerably depending on the audience of people that you're asking. In this room full of these women, they mostly answered the man. If you were to ask a room full of people that I know that are women, that the women in my life, the answer would probably be very different. If you were to ask a room full of me and my guy friends, the answer would be something like, what's a date? Probably.
Damn, son.
If you ask a crowd in Portland this question, they will all say in unison, no one should pay because restaurants are a hierarchical bourgeois construction that dominates their workers. They should be abolished. Until then, just dine and dash. That's another dig at anarchists on this channel, but it's all fun and goofs. It's all gags and games. Okay, here, for left unity, I'll do a tanky one for you. Oh, hey, tankies, who should pay for the date? The Western hegemonic imperial powers. Oh, okay, cool. Actually, no objections to that. I'm down. And Vladimir Zelensky, specifically, for some reason. Oh, god damn it. Ukraine flagging by silence liberal.
But say I'm dating. We're dating.
But here's the... okay, he's supposed to pay.
Yeah.
But you're supposed to have sex with him whenever he says.
Whoa, okay, hold on there, buddy. That's a $20 diner tab. Not a great thing to compare to the sexual agency of a human being. Buy me a drink, or else. It doesn't have the same kind of ring as have sex with me, or else, you know? I don't know. Being charitable, I think he's attempting to point out a contradiction in gender roles or in the problematic nature of gendered expectations. Yeah, let's go with that, okay? Like, if you're going to have a requirement for me as a man to do something because I'm a man, then how is that any different from me holding a requirement upon you for being a woman, regardless of what that requirement is? Again, the example is a bit lopsided when it comes to the sort of real world implications here, but you know, let's just see where he goes with this.
But you're supposed to have sex with him whenever he says.
No.
Where does this double standard come from? I'm sorry, it's the reality. You can moan at it all you want, but the moment you say to a guy, you have to fucking pay for my time, you're saying this relationship isn't equal. This relationship isn't equal. My time is worth more than yours, so you should pay for it.
The issue with this comparison here, I think, is that most of the time women aren't saying like you have to do this, you have to pay for my time. If they're even saying it, what they're saying is like, it would be nice if a man paid for the first date, because that is a nice thing, right? Yes, of course there are gendered stereotypes attached to men being the provider and having to chivalry pay for the meal every time, because that's what a man does. That's what a man does. If they don't, you know, they're not a real man. They're worth less. It's less common now than it was in the past. Not that I have that much reference, but I just feel like it's not that common. That notion's definitely sort of there. It still affects the society, and it's still very problematic. I don't like that. Just thinking back on the last few dates I've had, it's mostly been we are both pulling our cards out at the same time kind of situation. And in those, I'm a big fan of like, oh, I'll pay this time, you do the next time. Unless the date is bad, then I just don't say anything and we split the check and go our separate ways. Fuck you, Sarah! But the expectation from women that the man is the one who's supposed to pay, as well as the feeling from men that they ought to pay, whether they want to or not, these are both outgrowths from the same thing. Cover your ears again, red pillars, I'm sorry. It's the patriarchy. Stop! I didn't say it. Somebody hacked me. I got hacked by my little baby cousin. And this is why I have a problem with what he's saying and what he says at the end here especially.
Here's my view. If you go on a date with a guy and you don't offer to pay your share, you weren't taught right.
By saying you weren't taught right to women who don't offer to pay, he's kind of individualizing the blame onto women and their parents for a socially constructed cultural phenomenon. I could just as easily say to any man that's ever paid for a date, even though he didn't want to, but because he felt like he had to, that they weren't raised right. But that would be fucked up, because again, these are just two sides to the same coin, and you weren't raised right is just like the ultimate subjective statement of, I don't like what you're doing, so your parents are bad parents or some shit. Thanks to the patriarchy. We're all raised wrong, okay? Sorry. We're all twisted and fucked up and sad. Your Tinder date's parents didn't invent the concept of gender roles just because she wasn't the first one to slap her Capital One card on Starbucks desk. Society is so deep. Wow. Society's such a deep place. All right, everybody, that's enough of all this crap. Let me know what you thought of the video. Obviously trying a little different approach. Some would call it, you know, empathy. Ooh, feeling about people's feelings. Other people would call it terminal centrist brain negotiating with the misogynist. I don't really know, because I'm watching way too much of this crap. It's probably infecting my brain somehow, but maybe it's not. Maybe I'm just that guy.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Thanks again to Ren for sponsoring today's video, and to my wonderful patrons who should be scrolling by at this instant. Thank you so much, and goodbye, and thank you. Mwah. Bye.
Hostile UAV established overhead. Bravo zone secure. Taking A.
Hi everyone, Hugo here, one of the co-hosts of the show. What you're about to watch is a highlight from one of our most recent episodes. To get access to the full version, receive 2 exclusive episodes a month, get every episode 1 week early, and help us stay as independent as possible, support us on Patreon, below.
I'll say this once.
Thank you.
Do not
Now enjoy the show.
And the funniest part is this is a conversation. It's like a summary of the same conversation I've had with like multiple different people. So I think every time when I talk to a business guy, it exposes the inherent contradictions in their ideology. So the first thing they want to do is they want to talk business, and they want to talk to you about how smart it is to run a business, and how easy their job is, and how much passive income they make from their business, and how they work smarter, not harder. And so in the book, the example I use is when I talked to a guy who ran a landscaping company. And this was real. I met this guy at a party, and he's like, well, I run a landscaping company. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like a lot of hard work doing landscaping. And he was like, I don't do landscaping. I hire people to do landscaping. And I was like, oh, so your job's pretty easy then? And he's like, yeah, lots of passive income, you know, data evidence and smart business. And I was kind of like, oh, okay, like, right, so you don't work then. And he's like, well, you know, I gotta work, like, it's hard work keeping them in line, the employees, you gotta make sure they show up and they do things. I'm like,
juggling. Oh.
Yeah, he's like, you know how it is with workers, with employees. And I'm like, no, not really. Most of the people that work with me want to work. I mean, once in a while, maybe somebody's got an issue going on. But for the most part, everybody I work with is pretty into working so that the company is successful, so they continue to get paid and have a job. And, you know, the conversation quickly devolves into a situation where I'm like, maybe you should pay your workers more, and then they would actually show up and do the job. Or like, you know, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you pay your workers more? And usually what they fall back on is that, well, like, I'm the brains of the operation. I'm actually doing all the hard work. They're replaceable, so I deserve to make this money. And then, like, there is a contradiction where you're like, you just told me you have passive income. You just told me you don't actually work. You just told me you're working smarter, not harder. So is it true that you're the hardest worker in the building and that's why you deserve the most money? Or is it true that you're the smarter, not harder worker and the passive income and you don't do anything? Which one is it? And there's never an answer, obviously, because it's all mythology, right? Like, the reality is that this guy probably does some half-ass bullshit work 20 hours a week and pats himself on the back for being so fucking intelligent. And he probably is able to position himself in that contradiction very, very easily. Not often, but has to lay it out. And I think there's like an element of safety when people who run businesses come into contact with me, because they're like, oh, you run a business, you know how it is. Well, I don't know how it is for you, actually, and I don't know what you're saying to me because it does not make sense. So this one encounter is kind of like a microcosm of like multiple encounters I've had with people over and over and over again, and they don't know. They do not know, and I think that's the thing about like the American indoctrination, like the idea. You know, of like what it means to be successful in the United States, and you're just consuming all this information about what success is. Success means outsmarting the other guy. Success means exploiting someone else so you're not the one getting exploited. We saw this kind of ideology also pop up at, I believe, DNC maybe recently, when that person was like, oh, if you're not sitting at the table, you're on the plate. And that's kind of that ideology that people really have in the United States. Like, well, I have to exploit people. I have to be, you know, pushing people around. I have to be in control. Otherwise, someone's going to do that to me. And it never even enters people's heads. Like, what if you just like tried to people? What if you just gave it a shot? What if you were just like a human being and just like did a solid and tried to talk to people and work things out together and approach things as a group? And I think people really, it's part of that like whole capitalist realism thing, right? It's like people cannot even imagine as the potential world that they live in. And you can see there's like a lot of honor. Like the United States has made it where like you don't have honor unless you are making a lot of money, unless you're the most important guy in the room.
Now you're the one providing jobs. You're the one feeding their family. The shit that comes out of their mouths is absolutely fucking gorgeous.
Right. And it's like, well, and I ended up telling that guy, you know, he was like, well, they need me. And I'm like, but you don't know how to landscape. So it sounds like you need them. You totally don't know how to landscape. You don't landscape. You don't know how to do anything. Like, what would you do for landscapers?
Oh, but the risk. I'm the best. I took the risk.
And that's something too. It's like, as an owner in the United States, you're very protected. The only time you take risk is when you decide to invest in your own business, which is two totally different things. If you choose to invest in your own business, and there have been times when I have not invested in the company at all, there have been times when I personally have invested in the company, but any risk I took was as an investor, not as a business owner, and those are different things. And not all investors are owners, and not all owners invest. And you know, that's just how it goes. And like, investment always comes with a risk, but the risk is not associated primarily with ownership. That is a myth that they put on people to try to justify those egregious wages.
Imagine the risk of people who are employed there who would, if they were to be laid off or you were to go out of business as a business owner, imagine the risk that they take. It's way greater and more material. They move their families maybe and their kids and all that kind of, it's a whole thing. You know? But I was going to say, one of my favorite things also from the book is how you mentioned, and it's like, there's so many ideas about how it would be more quote-unquote equitable, how it makes more sense to compensate for said quote-unquote risk. And JT, I remember once in an earlier point mentioned regarding, for example, novelty invention or innovation, that people could get some kind of bounty. And you paralleled that idea, not directly referencing JT, of course, but it was a similar idea in the book where you mentioned, like, okay, well, all the hours that you worked that were not paid because the business hadn't taken off yet, well, that's just like back owed wages that you can pay yourself out. That stuff does not extend into perpetuity through all time in fucking history. You can reach a point where you pay yourself the amount that is fair for the hours worked, and then afterwards you're just a regular employee with maybe an administrative role, if you're even doing the fucking work at all, which the vast majority of these people are not. So
yeah, definitely. I think that's a really good solution for that issue, because there definitely were times when I was doing the business when it was just me, where I was not making money. There were years that I was not making money, and I haven't gone back and taken compensation for that. But I also feel like if I needed to, that would be something that made sense to everybody on our team, you know? So I feel, to me, I'm just like, oh, that's the past. The past is the past. But I also see if people are interested in starting a new business on this structure, like take an account of the hours you're working that aren't compensated. Keep it. And once the business is at a point where you're able to compensate yourself for that, by all means do it. But, you know, yeah, it's not like a blank check to write yourself forever, because, I don't know, for a year you worked on a project a couple hours every day after your day job. Like, that's not how that works. Like, if that were how it works, everybody who got really good at, like, crochet or like baking would have a blank check to be like a millionaire into perpetuity based off of those hours. Like, it's whatever. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, the ideology exists to perpetuate itself. It doesn't need to make sense.
Yep. Yeah.
It just has to sound good enough.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But okay, so how does one even go?
Team deathmatch. Engagement windows open. Go, go, go!
Yes! You've been shot!
Ma'am. Ma'am, can you hear me? Breathe. She's got a pulse. You're good. We're good. We got you. Breathe. Just keep breathing. Keep breathing.
Now hold it.
Oh my goodness. Homicide is here. She didn't die. Yeah, that's not the lead.
A peaceful morning turns into a terrifying nightmare when a woman is shot and her infant twins are kidnapped. As the police scramble to save the mother's life, a deliberate attempt to spread misinformation leads investigators to a dead end they did not anticipate. With no witnesses to the crime, police must race against time to find the babies before they disappear forever.
Some lifetime movies.
On May 11th, 2021, Savannah police rushed to a scene of a brutal shooting. 23-year-old Gabrielle Rogers had been shot multiple times inside her home before the shooter kidnapped her 2 children. Though her injuries are severe, Gabrielle manages to run across the street to get help from a neighbor before collapsing on her front porch. The following footage has mostly never been seen before.
Where's she shot? Got one in the leg. We need a tourniquet. Do you have an extra set of gloves? Set of gloves. Tourniquet. I need gloves. Go.
I don't know if it's here or down there. All I know is she told me she shot. I don't know. If you heard anything on that side or here. She has my kid. She took my kid. They took her kid.
Gosh.
And they took my kid. And they took the kid.
Much tighter.
As officers assist Gabrielle, she shares a horrifying detail that she knows the shooter.
What's your name, ma'am?
Kathleen Daniels. She took my kid.
Kathleen what?
Kathleen Daniels took my kid.
Where does she live?
She lives here.
With the suspect's name identified, the officers are already a step closer to solving the case. However, they don't know yet that this information would in fact lead them down an unforeseen path of deception and twisted schemes. The shooter, Kathleen, had been visiting Gabrielle when she suddenly became agitated and claimed her phone was missing. When Gabrielle turned around to search for the phone, Kathleen strangled her with a phone charger and said, "Those are my kids, and I'm taking the kids." After a brief struggle, the suspect shot Gabrielle, grabbed the children from the nursery, and fled. As the officers work urgently to provide assistance to Gabrielle, her sister grows completely distraught.
Ma'am, can you hear me? Breathe. She's got a pulse. You're good.
I'm dying.
Here, we're good. We got you. Breathe. Just keep breathing. Keep breathing. Keep breathing. Keep breathing.
Later investigation will reveal that the suspect and Gabrielle became fast friends, bonding online over Facebook chats about their pregnancies with twins, before meeting in person at the hospital for the first time the day Gabrielle had her twins. But Gabrielle didn't know that Kathleen is not who she believes her to be. At the crime scene, Gabrielle's sister Jasmine desperately tries to work through her trauma to provide a statement to the police, while a witness helps fill in the gaps.
And then the police officers, they said she's got 2 kids. Oh, this is her sister that lives with her. She wasn't home at the time, so she don't know what's going on. Okay, ma'am. Twin boys. Yes, ma'am. Okay. They took the woman that did this one.
They were 6 months yesterday.
They took them.
No, 6 weeks. 6 weeks.
Did you see? She just said that's all the information that she gave.
I just came. And
She just came. She came to me.
Okay.
And she came to me and she said a friend of hers, do you know Gabrielle or Gabriel or something like that? Somebody took her kids, came in, shot her, took her 2 kids.
She said one of her friends was going to bring her a whole bunch of formula. And I was at a job interview, and I just got
You guys live together?
You know her name?
What's your name? What's her name?
Gabrielle.
Hers is Gabrielle.
What's your name? My name is Jasmine.
Do you know a Kathleen Daniels?
You do?
You do?
Okay.
Do you know where she lives?
Get them off the porch.
Come on, let's go. Well, I can't get off. That's my house.
As the officers attempt to remove the witness from her porch, it only fuels the chaos while Jasmine breaks down.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, come with me, please. There's a 2.5. You're okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. How are you going to take care of me? You can't even get in the house.
I have more stress right now.
I'm going to go for my bag. I understand this, but I got kids under the age of 6. I got my blind husband. He can't walk. Try to calm down. She'll be okay.
You know Kathleen Daniels? Do you know what kind of vehicle she drives, ma'am?
The last time she came, I believe it was a silver car.
Silver?
Before she said she had a white car.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. It's gonna be okay. So who is Kathleen Daniels to her? She met her at a mom's group?
She's just a friend she met on a mommy's group on Facebook.
Has she ever been in your house?
Yes, she has.
Apparently, Kathleen had met Gabrielle a couple of times and had provided baby supplies during some of those visits. As Jasmine continues to assist the officers, she shares information that potentially brings them closer to nabbing Kathleen.
We have a camera at our front door.
You have a camera at your front door?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Go ahead and pull it up for me.
Oh, Jesus.
As Jasmine searches through the footage, she makes a spine-chilling discovery.
So it's going to be that'll be that place now, 10:15.
Okay.
Look around that time.
Awesome.
I only have these ones. I only have 9:57, 10:22. That's when I came.
Oh, a picture of her vehicle? Is her vehicle taken or someone took the kids?
Her vehicle's in the backyard.
Okay, what about the kid keeper that's in the
whole bunch of cans of formula that she was bringing over, and I left to go to a job interview, and I just got back, and I saw this load on the floor.
All right. Did you? So we know the lady was already gone and the kids were gone. No one's seeing that, to your knowledge.
Uncannily, Kathleen is never caught on camera, and police must now rely on Jasmine's description to find the suspect. Back on the porch, paramedics arrive to rush Gabrielle to the hospital as other officers work to secure the crime scene.
UAV. Yep. UAV commencing surveillance operation. Chest on.
Feet first, Ian. Feet first. We're just gonna take her straight off.
NPL 50%. Check. Slide. She was. She hasn't said anything in a minute. What do we have on the kids? Can you hold the chest? Hold the chest while I move this.
All right, grab-ish.
Okay, just doing that. The house across the street, there's blood everywhere inside. If you want to go across the street, that door, yeah, everything's inside. Lock that down.
Come down. Nice and easy.
1241. Eyes on enemy line.
I'll be on Southeast 36.
That's 7. Were you hurt, sweetheart? How many? What happened? Okay. How many shots?
Immediately after Gabrielle is placed on the stretcher, officers rush to clear her house, unsure of what dangers might be lurking within. A grim discovery inside the house will soon provide critical evidence of the brutal injuries Gabrielle has endured.
Watch your back, solid. Slide this way. Slide you. Just hold that.
Gotcha.
Hey, what do you got, boss? What do you have to your left? Does it go all the way through? You see the bathroom?
Close it down.
Is she shot? 3. So there's 2, 3 cases.
Meanwhile, inside the ambulance, Gabrielle informs the officers that the suspect had stolen something else before she fled the scene.
She has your phone?
As officers locate the phone nearby, they suspect that Kathleen may have taken the phone from the scene, possibly to prevent Gabrielle from calling emergency services before quickly discarding it a couple of streets away. As officers run the name Kathleen Daniels through their database, confusing reports begin to pour in.
I don't know because I found one with the Pooler address in Tiburon. What's the address here? Because I don't know. Is it? Okay. Quick. Davis, Kathleen. We need to figure out who she is. How about how old? And I got nothing for Kathleen Davis.
While some of the officials continue to hunt for Kathleen in their database, other officers canvass the neighborhood, searching for witnesses and footage of the suspect's fleeing vehicle.
Hey, how you doing today, sir? This your neighbor? Did you see any cars flee out from there or anything like that?
No, I sure don't, man.
Did you hear anything?
I didn't hear nothing.
Okay. How far down do you live?
I'm right there. There go my wife walking.
Do you know if you got any cameras down here or anything
No,
like that?
man. I've been meaning to put some. I ain't got some deer cameras or anything up.
Okay.
Maybe 20, 25 minutes before y'all knocked on the door.
You heard a loud bang?
Yeah, because I was in the kitchen talking to my brother, and I didn't pay any more attention. That's when I went outside to smoke in the yard.
One
I saw
or two?
the cars. One loud one. Yeah. And I saw all the police cars start coming in. Yeah.
After you heard the bang?
Yeah.
About how much?
About 5 or 10 minutes later, the police started coming down.
With little to go on from the neighbors, police must rely on Jasmine and Gabrielle's statements. However, the details are few, and the suspect's dark motives still evade them.
Gabriella, stay with me, sweetie. There we go. Look at me. You're doing good. You're doing great. I know. We can't take it off yet, but we're at Memorial, so it'll be off in just a minute, okay?
With tensions running high, officers face a momentary roadblock trying to get a stranger off the crime scene.
Hey, my man, you gotta get on the other side of the tape. Get on the other side of the tape. I'll tell you in a second. Calm down.
Talk to you. Let us talk to you first.
Calm down, brother. What happened to her? What do you mean she was shot?
Hold on a second.
Promote!
Let her
She gotta explain it to you, man. Hey, look, I get it.
As the community continues to reel in the shock of the attack, officers and detectives begin formulating theories for the motivation behind the diabolical crime. The most prevalent theory is also the simplest.
Does she have any idea what happened? Why this?
Honestly, I think that it was an abduction. I think it's an abduction.
I'm trying to get all that. She met somebody. I understand that. That's perfectly clear.
Somebody online.
So this is a person that's just befriending her, a female. Like, hey, girl, we can be mommy thing, whatever the case is.
Join this mommy group.
Right. So what would be her motive? She wanted the babies?
She wanted the babies.
Or she want to get her out the house for somebody to do it? Okay, all right.
She wanted those babies.
Okay.
Stephanie, who does this?
That's some TV stuff.
Right, this is for TV.
That's TV.
Who does this? This is a woman. This is a woman that is claiming to have kids and probably don't really have those kids.
Yeah, and
but
want babies
she
and
wanted
kidnap
babies.
and selling them. So this is my thing. A white car is involved. Do y'all know anybody with a white car?
No.
Okay, sure.
And how in the world can we have cameras out here and nobody don't see her, but you see everybody else that's coming to the door? So obviously now I know she's been over here several times. So 9 out of 10, she's already kind of scoped out.
So she knows the ins and outs and how she can maneuver and manipulate.
Nuclear bunker sales increase. Despite expert warnings, they aren't going to provide protection. What does it mean to sell a nuclear bunker? Okay, that actually sounds interesting. Like, these people are clearly insane, but what does it mean? Like, you build a bunker in your basement or something? Or they just like have real estate developers who like build bunker communities? Or what is this exactly? Okay, so these guys built an underground bunker in their dream home. So this is just like your typical American preppers. There's a company apparently called Atlas Survival Shelters. Wait, this link? Okay, so what is Atlas Survival Shelters? Maybe I can click this link to go to their website or something. And AP News, like a supposedly serious news website, you mouse over this link and let's click it. It goes to a Google search for Atlas Security Shelters. It doesn't actually go to their website. It just goes through a Google search. And then you have to click on the actual link to their website. That is, honestly, that takes more effort than just linking to the website. Okay, whatever, man. So there's like an entire company dedicated to building these for like dumb Americans, which, honestly, that's the demographic that I would think. You know, they have preppers and stuff there already. Why wouldn't the preppers build a nuclear bunker? I would have been surprised if they hadn't already done that before this company even existed. 4 callers ended up buying bunkers in one day, a hypersonic missile to attack Ukraine. Like, you see Russia use like a non-nuclear missile to attack Ukraine, and your reaction is to buy a nuclear bunker get a nuclear bunker built on your property. There's something going on with the Americans, man. I mean, this guy says his bunkers are built for all disasters. They're good for anything from a tornado to a hurricane. I mean, that makes sense. Having a bunker for a tornado makes sense. Yeah, that does make sense. I mean, I guess is provided that like you have some sort of contingency in case the door gets blocked or something. So contact the outside world for help. That actually makes sense because there's some places where you probably want to have a place to shelter from a tornado. And then he goes, tornado, hurricane, nuclear fallout. Okay, that's not the same thing as those other two. Those other two actually happen all the time. Nuclear fallout does not. To a pandemic, I mean, why would you need to go to a bunker for a pandemic? Just stay in your house. To even a volcano erupting? Where, do you live in fucking Pompeii, dude? Yeah, this does just seem like an advertisement for this guy's fucking, for this guy's company, doesn't it? The average price for these bunkers is $500,000. Like, not even for the property, just for building the bunker. That's insane. Yeah, you could buy an entire property probably with a house already built in it for that much in a lot of places in the US, probably way less. And this guy's charging them $500K just to make the bunker. He's coming out like a bandit. And like the rest of the article is apparently about like how to survive nuclear war. This is what people are talking about now. I thought the Cold War was over. Apparently not though. Damn, those are some nice toilets. This looks like a fucking one of those like capsule hotel rooms. They're really stretching this video. It's all just based on like one company. It's all just really based on that one company. It's just an ad for them. I mean, I looked at the initial thumbnail. It was different. Let's see if it's still the same when I go there. Like the initial thumbnail, I don't know what country this is. It looks Chinese characters. So the initial, it's like a guy who looks like he's in China or something. So I was like, oh, it must be about like crazy people all over the world building nuclear bunkers. That actually sounds interesting. And then I clicked the article. And it's only about like American suburbanites who are very bored with no problems in their life and have too much money, who are building nuclear bunkers, all suspiciously from one company that like gets half the article as advertisement for themselves. Very false advertising there. I feel falsely advertised too. We should all form a class action lawsuit immediately against AP News Organization. Why was the thumbnail a guy standing in a street in China? Like, I would have loved to hear why the random Chinese guy wants a nuclear bunker. That would have actually been interesting. Americans having nuclear bunkers because they're insane and they have like preppers who like have no problems in their lives, so they create like imaginary future problems for themselves to solve. We already know about them. They've existed forever. Nothing interesting, nothing new.
Correct.
If Stefan is correct, the suspect could have befriended Gabrielle to execute this frightening plot. Haunted by this unsettling theory, detectives speak with Jasmine, who shares more about Gabrielle's plans for the day.
Like I said, she came over and she said, I have a whole bunch of formula that I don't need because my babies don't drink that one. I remember her saying specifically. And she told me this morning before I left that was the person who was coming over to give her the formula.
What kind of formula?
The formula the twins drink is the Similac. She said it was a whole bunch of Similac because her twins don't drink that because they were smaller or something. Like one of her twin girl just came out of the hospital like last week. She got in a car accident the other day when she was supposed to bring over the formula. And I believe she went to Memorial. She works at Memorial as like in the ER.
As detectives dig deeper into the case, they're thrown off guard when they uncover that in one of her messages, Kathleen had claimed to work at the same hospital where Gabrielle was brought for emergency treatment now.
Because a lady has twin girls too. She has a boy and a girl. She had the boy at home, but the girl had to stay in the NICU. I remember her telling me that she brought her oldest child with her. He was 2. That's the only thing that I can think of. She said that the girl with the formula was coming, and she was the one who said she had it, so it has to be her.
Shortly after, officers get their first breakthrough in the case when Jasmine shares a screenshot of Kathleen's image, taken from the Ring doorbell footage from one of Kathleen's previous visits. Officers accompanying Gabrielle at the hospital urgently search for Kathleen, looking to the hospital staff for answers.
So if I show you a picture, can you tell me if it looks, this is a bad picture, but does that look familiar to anybody that possibly looks here? That you know?
Taking A.
Let's see. Wasn't she here yesterday?
She has the one yesterday.
She was here yesterday.
Yes. Hold on. This is the victim.
This is the suspect.
Down A.
And what's her name?
Her name is Kathleen Daniels or Kathy Daniels. We believe.
We're using Alpha.
The victim was able to really, that was all she was able to say. It wasn't really able to give us much.
You're thinking of the same person I am, right?
The tech.
Yeah.
So
she has red braids, I think.
she has braids. Okay.
She was here yesterday. They haven't been
Unsure if the tech and the suspect are the same person, the hospital staff search through the names in their database. However, they don't find anyone under the name of Kathleen Daniels or anyone who looks like the person captured by the security camera outside Gabrielle's home. With a promising lead quickly turning into a dead end, additional officers attempt to locate the list of visitors from the day Gabrielle gave birth at the same hospital.
So I'll be honest with you, since it's already on the news. There was 2 babies abducted. Okay. So 2 babies abducted today. There was a woman who visited the victim here when she had her children on the 28th. The woman who visited her is the one who abducted the children. We're just trying to figure out who she is.
So was it a family member?
We don't know, and we believe she gave the victim a fake name, because you guys don't have Kathy Daniels or Kathleen Daniels that meets her description in your database, but somehow she got here, back here. So
is they're not able to give you any information without going through our legal department.
So go through them.
So we have to get you connected with them.
Okay.
Yeah, in order to give any information, and at that point in time, I think
they're taking C.
While they couldn't obtain the visitor list from the hospital staff, the officers are about to learn something so extraordinary, it will completely flip the case over on its head. While Gabrielle fights to survive, police gain access to her phone. But somehow the social media profiles of Kathleen Daniels are nowhere to be found. With no proof that she even exists outside of the surveillance footage from a week ago, police have no choice but to go to the media and release the image from Gabrielle's Ring doorbell footage, along with an Amber Alert for the twins.
They're taking C.
That's the alert. The 2 to 6 week. Yep, 2 to 6 week old twin black male, black
Lockdown. Hold the enemy back.
Okay, dude.
Good luck, Charlie.
Oh, you got both. Y'all get your too.
Miraculously, tips pour in immediately from local residents. According to the police report, the tip from the community provided information which advised that the infants were being held inside a home in Rincon, a city nearby. The reason officers couldn't find a single record of the mysterious Kathleen Daniels is because she doesn't really exist. This wasn't a simple case of a missing record or a misspelled name. Rather, this was a carefully crafted deception, an alias designed by the suspect to shield her true identity from her crime. Behind the mask of this fabricated identity was a woman named Angela Montgomery. The pieces of this harrowing puzzle were beginning to fall into place, and this revelation would only lead to darker secrets being uncovered. A SWAT team rapidly heads to Angela's home. At her residence, officers found Angela's 2-year-old son, her fiancé Dale, her mother, and 3 sisters, and the greatest discovery of all, the missing baby boys. Officers carried the infants from the house to a nearby police car and finally share an update that everyone had been desperately waiting for.
Hey, babies. All right. Hey, darling.
Somebody advised we have both babies. That's all one. Somebody advised we have both.
Losing Bravo.
We have both. We have both.
At the time of her arrest, Angela was found naked and hiding in a closet. Outside, one of the detectives interviews Angela's mother, and what she has to share is nothing short of a nightmare in the making.
So Angela lives here. Whose babies?
I thought they were hers. I thought they were hers.
She had babies lately?
Yeah.
Okay. Where does she have her kids at, you know?
Today, supposedly, she had.
Okay.
According to the police report, Shaniqua shared in a later interview that after she heard the Amber Alert, Angela took everyone's cell phones away and confessed to the kidnapping, saying, "I have something to tell you. I did something bad, and I know you and Dale are going to hate me for this." Shaniqua immediately told Angela to give the babies back, and Dale began packing the babies' things.
She had a baby today?
That's what she said.
When last time you saw her other than today?
Yesterday.
Where did you see her at?
In my house.
And she looked pregnant?
She's been pregnant. She was supposedly supposed to be being induced today.
Okay.
When officers and detectives began searching Angela's home, they quickly located 3 firearms. Additionally, some baby formula was found in the kitchen cabinets. The house appeared to be fully equipped for 2 newborn babies. Police also found a mysterious note along with a stunning piece of information, unveiling a horrifying and twisted motive that would shift the entire investigation.
So, why are you here? Just to help her? So, were you here when she came home with the babies? Oh, so, what did she say to you when you saw the babies? You held them? So, what did she say?
She said she had them.
Who was with her?
Nobody.
Just by herself? What kind of car she was in?
At the time, she had my car. She had borrowed my car.
According to the police report, when Shaniqua and Angela met at the hospital, Shaniqua observed one of the babies on Angela's dashboard and the other on the passenger seat. Oddly, both the babies were unclothed, but she didn't question her daughter about it. After completing the formalities at the police station, Angela is brought in for interrogation. Soon enough, Angela, a.k.a. Kathleen, confirms what Jasmine told the officers about the Facebook group. However, she divulges some major details which completely contradict what the police had heard from Jasmine and Gabrielle.
There was another person there today.
Do not fuck with me.
And you can look at my birth records. I'm adopted. And I have a sister. And we're twins. We are not identical. We are fraternal. She was the other person here today, and these are the things true. My sister showed up exactly 3.5 months ago. She's from New York. She lives in Jersey and has her address.
As it happens, police never needed to verify any of the details concerning this other twin sister's involvement. According to the police report in an interview, while Angela's mother confirmed Angela was adopted when she was 2 weeks old, she reveals that Angela doesn't have a twin. Moreover, her family had no idea she'd not been pregnant for several months. Angela proceeds to ramble on about her fictitious twin sister Destiny, desperate to convince the detectives of her innocence. But they already know the truth about what she'd done, and her attempts to convince them otherwise are in vain. The detectives confront Angela, demanding the truth about what really happened that morning.
I woke up this morning with plans to tell my fiance, but I'm not. That I miscarried. Today was supposed to be your induction date. Well, or induce later, technically. I never actually planned the induction date. It was supposed to be Saturday, and Saturday I was going to tell Dale, and something happened when he skipped to add those. Freaking crazy, so.
That's right. Angela lost her twins to a miscarriage prior to meeting Gabrielle. After befriending her under the guise of also being pregnant, she posed as a helpful friend. During this time, she learned where the cameras in the nursery were located in her house and then kidnapped Gabrielle's children. From there, she attempted to fool her family into believing the babies were hers, to then raise them as her own. This was eerily close to what Gabrielle's uncle Stefan had theorized. When police were searching Angela's house, they discovered the astonishing evidence of the miscarriage, along with an unnerving note on her calendar.
Did she use swings or something?
What?
Did she use swings?
Get a UAV
Yeah, a long time ago.
With enough evidence to charge Angela and the children secure, officers shared the happy news with Jasmine and her aunt.
She's in the back.
Twins, they're okay.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
Rankin.
They were about to drink it.
Thank you, Jesus.
And they also have a suspect in custody as well. Okay.
On November 7, 2023, Angela Kathleen Montgomery was found guilty of a mental health consideration of criminal attempt to commit murder, 2 counts of kidnapping, and aggravated assault. She was sentenced to 30 years in prison with a lifetime of probation. Gabrielle Rogers survived her injuries and is reunited with the children. She is on the road in full recovery.
No movement, no squirters, enemy spotted.
Hey you, and welcome. My name is Mike, and in this old video, we are gonna take a look at a plot that truly is like stranger than fiction, almost hilariously so, if there wasn't, like a flesh-eating poison in it. This is one of those stories where, if it was written in a book, you'd hand it back, saying it was full of shite. And in Newcastle, England, someone most certainly was. And he sort of injected it into another person. It's a whole thing, but before we get into it, please subscribe to see new videos every single week. Now, let's give it a go. Newcastle, England is the setting for today's story. A city of, over a little more than 300,000 people. And the setting for, now that I think about it, I think it's the setting for like a few past chapters that we talked about. It's a city which speaks for itself in a Geordie accent. and it's where one Thomas Kwan visited one day in late January 2024. He was visiting a house on St. Thomas Street, a house where his mother, Jenny Lung, lived there with her partner, a man named Patrick O'Hara. No relation. He was visiting that January 22nd to perform a routine health check. See, young Thomas Kwan, he was a doctor, if you can believe that, and so he was there, you know, giving them, checking out their blood pressure, giving them a once-over, and he was also there to give them a COVID booster jab. He was in his mother and, you know, her partner's house for approximately 40 minutes, yapping away about this and that, sure, you know yourself, and then gives Patrick the injection, and then he's right, I'm off, gotta hit the bricks. Almost immediately, however, after Patrick was injected, he was in a absolute metric shit ton of pain. The area around the injection site was all like blistered, inflamed. See, the thing was, although it was Thomas that day who visited his mother and her partner Pat, they didn't know it was Thomas. He was in disguise, quite possibly one of the funniest disguises we've ever seen, and you can bet your ass that was not no booster vaccine injection he was getting. It was pure poison. How about we get to the who, what, why, and the rest of it. In 2024, Thomas Kwan was 53 years of age, but he wasn't always so, if you can imagine. Thomas was born in Hong Kong to his mom, Jenny, and his father. However, at a mere 13 years of age, he left the place to attend a boarding school in England, and he would later study medicine in Newcastle itself, his family later following him over. But Thomas would be quite lonely and a little estranged from his parents and siblings. Thomas would go on and become very successful. He had a nice house in Sunderland where he worked as a GP. He was married, had a kid. So, like, within the family he created, nothing better. But within the family he was born into, could be a lot better. Nothing worse. See, Thomas always had a very difficult relationship with his mom, Jenny. He always felt that she never gave him enough or as much affection and love as a mother as she did to his own siblings. Thomas's relationship with his mother was something which only got worse when, what a play. She was married, obviously, to Thomas's dad. What she did was she withdrew £1 million from her and her husband's joint bank account. It's a lot of money. And then what she did, she forced him to divorce her. Then, not long after, the father, her husband, passes away. And he leaves not much of an inheritance because Jenny took all the money. Thomas had been excited for that money and was not too keen on that. And then guess what? He was even less keen when what little his father did have when he passed, the majority of that went to Thomas's younger brother. Now, I believe in Chinese culture, this is what the research said, is that when the parent dies, rather than, you know, the inheritance being distributed equally, as you find in a lot of places, in China and places like that, the eldest son, they get most of it, and then it kind of rolls downhill from there. So Thomas very much felt like he got fucked. So Thomas, fuming that not only did he not get what he had expected because his mother took it all, it's also like, it was seen as almost like disrespectful that his younger brother got more than he did. His younger brother, who hadn't been sent away for boarding school, who had spent more time with his parents, who had gotten more love and affection from their mother. Well, that just won't do. It's strange. Thomas became a very successful doctor, should be making pounds for days. And he was. But he was still described as greedy. And it's almost like the money was symbolic of his rage against his own family for excluding him, sending him away, and showing preferential treatment to his siblings they kept around. In a letter Thomas sent to his mother in January 2022, he was accusing her of, you know, stealing money from him, stealing money from the family, stealing his inheritance, though, you know, the $1 million she withdrew from the joint bank account, so that when his dad died, he didn't have an arse in his trousers. By this stage, Jenny was living in Newcastle with her new partner of many years, Patrick O'Hara. You say I am selfish or greedy, but I would like you to make me the sole executor of your will, as well as giving me the most and largest portion of the properties and inheritance. As you have told me many times, I'm the one you love the most out of all children. See, in her will, and, you know, Jenny getting a little bit on in years now. I mean, Thomas, her oldest son, was 53. But in her will, Jenny was going to leave the house in Newcastle where she lived to her partner, Patrick. Now, the house wasn't going to be Patrick's. It's not like he was going to get it. But he was going to basically have the rights to live in it for as long as he lived. And Patrick was like in his 60s, late 60s at this point. There's that French woman. She lived to be 122. Who knows how long Patrick could keep going for? So Thomas, feeling like he was screwed out of his dad's inheritance, he was going to make sure he got every single dime out of his mom's. He was licking his chops at the prospect of her kicking the bucket. And then in November 2022, he barged into that house in Newcastle, pushed past Patrick and began accusing his mom, demanding money now, give me money, to the extent the police were actually called. And that was kind of like the final nail in the coffin between Thomas and his mom, Jennifer. After this event, they never really spoke again. They didn't really have any kind of communications, or it was kept to an absolute minimum. Now, what Thomas thought of Patrick? Probably not much. He just saw him as one more wall between himself and all those dineros, all that cheddar cheese he was dying to get. Or at least he was going to make sure somebody else was dying so he could get that money. See, little did Jenny know that her beautiful little baby boy, he'd given her a laptop all the way back in 2020. Given his mom a laptop. What a great son. But Jenny didn't know that Thomas, giving his mom this laptop, had installed spyware, so he could basically monitor all of their financial transactions, and he'd also given himself access to the webcam. So he was literally spying on his mom and her partner. Some man for one man. And so Thomas began planning, setting it in motion 1 year after he pushed into his mom's house demanding he inherit her shit. That was November 2023. Early in that month, Patrick O'Hara received a letter from a group called the Community Associated Nursing Team, a local group looking out for the L fellas in the area, an NHS, National Health Service, the British healthcare body, initiative. This letter was from a Raj Patel, and it stated that, Patrick, my man, it's time for a community home visit. I, Mr. Patel, will pop over, to your house. I'll tell you when, check your vitals, check your blood pressure, check you're all, good to go, give you some, seasonal booster jabs, seasonal vaccinations, a COVID booster, just make sure you're good to go. And Patrick
Dad always told us to make
letter.
Good on our debts.
Happy days, for an alpha, you don't have to be going to the doctor all the time. Yeah, pop over, give me all this stuff. That's amazing. A little while later, then Patrick got a second letter, basically confirming the first letter, and then a couple months later, in early January 2024, Patrick got a third letter. This time was confirming the time and the date of this, when the doctor would pop over and do all these bits and yada yada yada. It was dated for January 22nd, a Monday, between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. The letter looked legit. Was it? It was shit. Neither the Community Associated Nursing Team nor Raj Patel existed. In the meantime, Thomas checked into a Premier Inn in Newcastle for the night on Sunday, January 21st. He'd been there a week earlier with his wife and found it suitable to begin enacting his revenge. He did not book it under his own name, as you can imagine, nor his own address. So Thomas checks into the hotel the night before Patrick's appointment, and then sends Patrick a text from a burner phone. Don't forget tomorrow morning, Raj Patel's got something for you. Look forward to it. The next morning, after having a nice lovely breakfast, Thomas he's thinking to himself, right? I am going to my mom and her partner's house, but they can't know it's me. Losing A. He goes to the extreme lengths, the cosmetics, out of this world, of getting the world's shittiest beard, mustache, and wig. He also used makeup to make his skin darker, then took this selfie to create an ID he would have for Raj Patel. Incredible stuff. Jeez, you never know it was him. He then left the hotel, walked to St. Thomas Street, where his mom and Patrick lived, knocked on the door, says, "How are you? I'm Raj Patel." Although he probably didn't sound like that because he also knew they'll recognize my voice. So he spoke English, like broken English. He did like some really shitty accent. Patrick opens the door. Come on in. Let's do this. He took Patrick's blood pressure, had him do like a healthcare questionnaire. Jennifer, his mom, even comes in. He takes her blood pressure. They do not realize it is Thomas. He would be in there for 14 minutes, yapping away in their faces, taking their blood pressure, giving them injections, and all the while they're like, yeah, classic Raj. It was then he administered a booster shot to Patrick. Patrick was there, yeah, shooting the shit like as usual, but he would say that upon receiving this injection, he was like straight up, as soon as it like entered him, he was in immense, severe pain, stinging pain from where he'd received this jab. He says to Raj, "What's the crack? What's this about?" Raj says, "Oh, don't worry about it, it's just the usual COVID, whatchamacallit. You're probably experiencing some allergic reaction to the injection. You'll walk it off, you'll be fine." And then like Raj very quickly starts kind of like putting his stuff away, like he was happy, calm, collected, chilling around the place. And then as soon as he injected, Patrick's like, "Well, gotta go, look at the time," making a hasty exit, stage left. But as Raj was walking out the door, his mom Jenny just so happens to come down the stairs, which were in the hall. Raj walks by her, and then Jenny says, "You know what? You're the same height as my son." Isn't that weird? Patrick, in the meantime, back in the living room, is looking at his arm and thinking, "Wow, this looks like Chernobyl." He's thinking, "Oh balls, something is not right here." His gears are grinding at this point, and he's thinking to himself, something is not right. He runs out of the house after Raj, but by this stage, Raj is gone. It's like the end of The Usual Suspects. The disguise is thrown away, gone with the wind. Patrick was now left with flesh-eating bacteria in his arm and would soon pass away if he didn't immediately go to the hospital. And he went to the hospital, the emergency room, saying, "This isn't normal." The staff at the hospital say, "I think you're just probably having some allergic reaction. Here's some antibiotics, you'll be fine. Have a cup of tea and you're grand." Then 2 days later, he goes back again. By this stage, Patrick was in immense pain. Some of the flesh on his arm had started dying. He was diagnosed with necrotizing fasciitis, and he had to have pieces of his arm removed. He would survive after numerous rounds of surgery, but was scarred for life. His partner's son had injected him with some kind of mystery substance, and his arm had nearly rotted off. The doctors were absolutely baffled by what this was, but it wouldn't be until Thomas was actually tracked down that they would get an answer to that. When Patrick was admitted, he showed the hospital staff the letters he'd been sent. Almost immediately, the staff called bullshit on those letters. They were not legit NHS letters. The police were informed, and tracking Raj via CCTV in Newcastle, they were able, in fact, to follow him to his very home in Sunderland. On February 5th, 2024, 2 weeks after he tried to murder Patrick, he was arrested.
Oi, enemy grenade!
Losing B. Losing Bravo.
Please. Grenade coming in.
Second, please. Thank you. Okay. You happy to talk in here? Yeah. So I don't just stay standing for us if you don't mind, please. The time is now 06:30 hours, okay? I'm arresting you for the offence of the suspicion of the attempted murder and administering a poison or noxious substance, commonly section 23 of the Offences Against the Persons Act 1861. Now, both of those offences occurred in Newcastle upon Tyne on Monday the 22nd of January 2024, okay? So you don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention one question, something which you'll later rely in court. Anything you do say may be given as evidence. So at the beginning, you're now under arrest on suspicion of those offences, okay? You understand that?
A search of his home revealed the extent of his crime and his obsession with poison. He had been thorough in his research. The police found liquid mercury, thallium, sulfuric acid, arsenic. Thomas had even made ricin, which I only know that ricin from Breaking Bad. But all I know is it's not something you want to stir into your coffee, which is what happens in Breaking Bad. He wanted these substances to such an extent, he created a shell company to purchase them. He had a library of various poisons. In fact, the booster jab wasn't the only thing he considered. He had written documents planning on lacing Patrick's drink and food with poison, but decided, ultimately, on killing in plain sight. It seems that Thomas injected Patrick with iodomethane, a colorless liquid mainly used as a pesticide, but of course in high doses it's extremely toxic. Patrick was lucky to escape with his life. They found iodomethane in Thomas's home, in syringes, along with videos showing, well, yeah, how to make it. The plan? Murder your mom's partner so all inheritance goes to you, and then probably she would soon be next with another random COVID jab. It was a revenge and grief, pure and simple. And a damn near good of work too. If it wasn't probably one of the stupidest plots I've ever covered. Top 3 at least.
We have the edge.
You know, all I can think about during this story is the kind of similar case of Juming Lee out of Tampa, Florida. Umar Abdullah lived in an apartment building there with his family, and neighbor, Juming Lee, had been making noise complaints about him and his family. They had a couple of months old baby, non-stop. According to Umar, it was ridiculous. Juming was complaining about vacuum cleaners, toilet seats closing, doors being shut, and they did their best to quieten down, but not enough for Mr. Lee, it appears. Then, in May of 2023, Umar and his family, they noticed a weird chemical smell inside their apartment, and over the next few days it got so bad that himself and his family began experiencing breathing difficulties, hair loss, headaches, and burning eyes. It even made their couple of months old daughter vomit. It got so bad that Umar hid a camera outside his front door to try and identify what the source of this noxious odor actually was. See, Juming Lee was enrolled in a PhD program at the University of South Florida. The subject? Chemistry, of course. So it was pretty horrifying to see Juming Lee on 2 separate occasions using a syringe to inject some mysterious substance under Umar's apartment door. I guess he felt his noise complaints weren't being taken seriously enough. What the substance was, no one is exactly sure, but it did contain methadone and hydrocone, but neither would give the symptoms experienced. So there must have been a little extra surprise in there, fresh from Juming. Juming Lee was arrested, charged with possession of a controlled substance, battery, and aggravated stalking, and to all of those he pleaded not guilty. He was later deported back to China, so it's unlikely there will be any further action in this case, but yet again we have a case of a man injecting mysterious substances into people who were just in his way, bothering him, just wanted to get rid of. Both of these guys would be, I guess, described as pretty intelligent. One was a doctor, the other studying his PhD to become a doctor, but both ultimately were pretty stupid, as the plan was dumb and they were caught real quick.
On Facebook when I was like, oh my god, that's my doctor, and I literally only saw him on the Thursday, and then that all come out on the Monday, and I just couldn't believe that he would actually do that to a family member.
Wow, that really doesn't look like him at all. So he only by the eyes is only how I can recognise him. The rest of him doesn't look like him at all.
And how does it feel to know that that's your doctor?
Yeah, absolutely terrifying.
In late 2024, Thomas Kwan pleaded guilty to attempted murder, and for that, he was sentenced to 31 years in prison. He will have to serve a minimum of 20 before he can be considered for parole, which means that by the time he can be released, at the very earliest, he will be in his mid-70s.
Thomas Kwan went to highly unusual lengths in his attempts to kill his mother's partner while avoiding detection. Over several months, he obsessively planned a way of gaining access to his victim, which involved the use of counterfeit documents, a shell company, and elaborate disguises to obscure the potentially lethal role he was to play in these events. While the attempt on the victim's life was thankfully unsuccessful, the effects were still catastrophic.
You want to clear your name? This is where it happens.
And Sinead, that, my friends, is the story of Thomas Kwan, a man who felt betrayed by his parents, his mother, and would do anything. And I mean anything. And when I say I mean anything, I mean literally the dumbest shit imaginable to remove those obstacles in his way to. Jenny and Patrick, they would later split. I mean, I guess it's not easy to stay with somebody whose son tried to murder you with questioning their exterior. And I'm presuming she wrote Thomas out of her will, or at least I'm hoping that she had the foresight to do that, because how this costume worked on not only her, but her partner is insane and some of the stupidest shit I'll ever hear. It's unbelievable. Almost as unbelievable as this entire plot was dumb. thank you so much for watching. It really means the absolute world to me that you're here watching this whole video. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to each and every one of you. I hope you get, I don't know, something from Santa or, you know, whatever. Or just hope you have a good time. Spend it with doing whatever you want to do or with people that mean a lot to you. You guys make my year and my Christmas every year just by being here watching these videos and supporting the love. It's always been amazing. So,
is he gonna start talking, or is he just gonna sit and stew? I guess he's looking stuff up.
This lunch counter, like by law, segregation. It's like certain country, like in Europe and shit, but it still doesn't. It's like when people talk about segregation, it's like if you're like you talk about segregation, and like we won't serve you in like at this lunch counter, like by law, if you're or you can't like sit in this part of the bus and shit like that. It's not like that. Right? I think the best way.
I mean, it's literally saying you can't come live in these communities, you can't buy this land. That is something that is a structural discrimination against Palestinians. You cannot come to this school, you have to live in your own Palestinian school, you cannot learn the language of your people, you can't even talk about Palestinian history, you can only talk about Israeli history. Once again, you cannot live in communities because Israel has given the right for community committees to ban people that will not fit in with the community culture of that area. So people are legally allowed to discriminate against Muslims. They're legally allowed to discriminate against whoever they want. LGBTQ people, for example. Also, Palestinians do not have the right to self-determination. It is legal for Israel to discriminate against their immigration coming in, even if they are married. The Supreme Court even said, nah, like, we like being racist. Like, that's what we just looked up. And then, as I said before, you cannot buy land. Like, they can discriminate against you for buying land. So, it's so funny, right? Like, well, this is what he did with the famine thing too, which I covered earlier this week. He said, well, obviously famine isn't occurring in Gaza because we don't have the names of 2 people for every 1,000 people living in Gaza that are dying every day due to famine. He doesn't say anything about the fact that the definition of famine he was using highlights Gaza as potentially under famine right now. He doesn't talk about how the UN human rights, like the UN Human Rights Division of the UN, the director of that is like, oh my God, there is imminent famine in Gaza. We need to get more food in there immediately. They don't talk about any of that. He just says, well, this one specific metric we don't have actual, like, hard evidence for, thus it's not happening at all. And it's the exact same thing with this segregation now. Well, if you cannot go into an Israeli lunchroom as a Palestinian and get told you can't eat at this cafeteria, you gotta go. And there is no segregation. If you cannot get on a bus and be told to get a UAV back, in the air, then there is no segregation happening. But all of these real examples of segregation that is literally written in Israeli law, he just completely ignores those. Or if he does acknowledge them, he says that other Arab countries have that same thing too. Other Arab countries do segregation. So why are we being so critical of Israel? In fact, if you are hyper-focusing on Israel in this for this specific metric, you're being a little anti-Semitic. You're being a little Jew-hating, because when you look at something, when you're only looking at the bad things that Jews do, and you're not looking at the bad things that other groups do, you're being anti-Semitic. It's like, dude, my fucking tax dollars are funding this bullshit. I can criticize the country of Israel. I can criticize the United States. I can criticize the country of Israel.
To compare, it would be to compare to like surrounding countries or countries that are in like similar circumstances.
No, motherfucker. You compare it to America because it is America's client state.
The constant thing. What's the marriage? If you want to talk about the West, that's like, I mean, that's probably worse than like Jim Crow and shit, right? Because of all the checkpoints and the unequal access to fucking water and.
True.
Obviously, like, you're subject to a totally different legal system, like with the.
Okay, yeah. Is he actually doing research while he's doing this? And he's been talking about it for like the last 3 minutes.
Even not even with arbitrary, with administrative detention, but also with military courts and shit. Tax collection. The fact that like you have to pay taxes to the Israelis and then they give it to the PA. That's kind of fucked. 2023. The problem with this is that like if that nation state law, which I'm pretty sure was like initially that was put down as like a principle, like it didn't really get enacted, it didn't really make any actions, but the fact that it's still there, the fact that it could be used as a precedent for law is like the problem with Israel is that a lot of the things about it that are liberal democratic are like under threat or are waning. So you're kind of in this process now where Israel sets itself apart from a lot of the other neighboring countries in the way that they treat their minorities and everything like that. But they also, for the last 20 years, keep on electing right-wingers who are trying to get rid of that shit. And are like sort of piecemeal doing it. I don't know. Internal Israeli affairs not even more because I'm trying to understand this thing about why.
So the Jewish nation state law was enacted in 2018. And I like this framing that Lonerbox is doing. And when I say I like it, I mean I actually hate it, but I'm noticing the framing. Wasted. Which is saying that it's these conservative right-wing nutjobs that are making these racist. It's the same tactic that he can find days. He's saying, well, I like Israel, but what I don't like are the settlers, and I don't like Netanyahu. Netanyahu is enabling these settlers, and they're the freaks that they ought to get rid of. Actually, they're so freaky that it is actually fair for Palestinian resistance groups to target the settlers, and they think Netanyahu is a war criminal. And so Ethan Klein is saying, yeah, the more extreme fringes of Israel are bad, but the idea of an ethno-state for Jewish people, I'm behind that. And Lonerbox is doing the exact same thing. Well, the issue with Israel is, like, there's not, I'm going to say there's no segregation, but all of the laws that actually do cause segregation were put in place by right-wingers in the most recent years. And the issue with Israel isn't that it's a Jewish ethno-state, but the issue with Israel is that making Israel an undemocratic place to live. What's with all these right-wingers? It's like, well, literally the inception of Israel was a right-wing idea. The inception of Israel was an ethno-state.
Dad always taught us
what
to make
the fuck
good
are you
on our
talking
debts.
about? It's now recently where the laws are doing that. Yeah, maybe now they're being a little bit, I mean, I wouldn't even say they're being a little explicit about it. They're being less democratic for Jews that are living in Israel, but everyone else living in Israel never had those rights to begin with. As we said, like, as we looked at the Palestinian representation in Israel is cut in half. They have half the representation than they should have currently. And yeah, they probably don't have much voting power anyway.
Netanyahu like runs on like law and order and like a lot of Palestinian or anti-Arab rhetoric, but he also enacts like affirmative action for Palestinians in Israel, like even more so than his predecessors, which is a bit strange.
Yeah, he's also fucking scapegoated them multiple times and kind of encouraged violence against the Israeli Palestinians, against the Palestinians that are citizens of Israel. Netanyahu has simultaneously said, like, okay, your conditions are extremely bad, so I'm going to do these reparations to reinvest in your communities, but also you guys are kind of the cause of all of the issues that's happening in Israel.
Domination. Remind the fugitives that actions have consequences. Taking B. Taking C. Bravo zone secure.
I can explain if you want. I'm sure you can all explain if you want.
Securing C. Incoming stun.
Exceptions have been carved out for some spouses.
Charlie secured.
One of two kinds of permits.
You're falling behind, Crimson.
I wonder how common those marriages are. It doesn't matter.
Hostile care package inbound. Taking Bravo underway.
Taking the objective. What it? Is this because they're worried about Palestinians in the West Bank marrying Palestinians in Israel and using it to get residency in Israel proper? Is that?
Yeah, it's also they're worried about Palestinians marrying Jewish people as well, not just Palestinians living in Israel, but also Jews living in Israel.
Because when they say marrying Israelis, do they mean like Israeli Jews, or because they're talking about Arab Israelis as well? They said they're
locked down.
Yeah, I would describe this as discriminatory. I would not describe this as like a different language of segregation.
We're losing Charlie. Taking A.
Yeah, and it's not technically a genocide. It's just an ethnic cleansing, and it's not actually a famine. It's just that the conditions are going to encourage famine. They're going to lead to famine. The conditions are making famine imminent. But you're technically wrong if you're saying it's a famine. You say it's a famine, you're being anti-Semitic. If you're saying it's segregation, you're being anti-Semitic. If you're saying it's a genocide, you're being anti-Semitic. It's not genocide. It's an ethnic cleansing. It's not segregation. It's discriminatory. And it's not a famine. It's just critical food. Like it's a critical lack of food security.
We're winning.
Yeah,
Keep it
this
up.
is
Losing B.
This is Loner Box. I'm gonna play a little bit more of this, but I think
Securing Charlie.
I'm done with this stupid shit. So yeah, he didn't say anything. He's just like, oh well, the people are saying there's segregation. Well, look into this, looks into it, sees that there's segregation. Well, I don't think it's segregation. I think it's just discrimination. Sits there for 5 minutes, saying nothing. Closes the tab and research on it, plays the video. Okay, let's make fun of Hassan more. Oh, he's gonna do the leftist laugh. Oh, he's gonna do the tanky laugh. Oh, he's such a frappo. Isn't Hassan such a loser? Dude, this guy's a fucking joke. He's honestly a joke, so. Anyway. Yeah, Loner Box is ridiculous. I've been covering him a little bit, and I wanted to cover this segment because a fan did send it to me. And yeah, he makes his VODs. He makes his VOD, like he takes his VODs down. What is this? So this is actually like a Loner Box fan channel that's extremely sad.
Task counter UAV above. Enemy grenade.
Anyway.
Enemy RCXD.
Wow. Yeah, Loner Box doesn't say anything. Destiny doesn't say anything. These guys have made a career off of talking quickly and appearing smart while just being like, like trying to make the stuff that the people they're reacting to sound dumb.
Maintain current
make the things that Hassan says sound dumb. I don't know, maybe I'll like listen to a few debates with these guys, but I'm kind of done covering them. Like unless they show up on a big show or something like that, I'll like, holy shit. They're just as bad as right wingers. Like the level of information that they bring to the table is just as low as what conservatives do. So anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know if you want me to cover him more. Let me know if you have any other content that you've seen of him that you want me to cover. Otherwise, I'll probably be covering EP5 some more and some other stuff on this like general idea. But Loner Box, Destiny, they don't really have anything valuable to say, and they don't even say anything at all, so I can't really criticize him. He's saying stuff, and I can question what he's saying and talk about that. Loner Box is just like, oh, Hassan bad. Let me pull up an article that disproves what I'm trying to say. Do not read it in any kind of in-depth detail at all, and then just X out of that and go back to the video. Go back to the The guy is a fucking joke. All right. Anyway, thanks for watching, everyone.
Securing zone A. Losing B.
We have to take this objective.
Zone Alpha captured. Losing A.
We hit 17 times all except equals total victory to the Bible. Well, can I argue with that? Turn. No. Other one. You want to go that other one? Don't let me hit my cane. AVA. 911.
Who's going to 33rd? Who's got the bail money?
Just give me a second. I gotta get off this. My ass is so fat.
Losing Bravo.
I'm not telling you what this one's about. I read the description. It sounds really good. Guess what, bitch? It's shoplifting edition. Okay, on July 16th, officers responded to a call from a Publix regarding
This
theft.
lady, good morning, like 10 things up for soup.
Taking C.
Oh. Put her hand in every box of chicken that we had, so we hadn't saw it.
Hostile safety charge.
She didn't have any money to pay for it. So she can't pay for the soup, we'll like to pay charges because she ate it all.
She ate all the food and they couldn't pay for it. Don't tell me this is her in the chair.
Oh, hey guys, I'm leaving right now. After I pay for the food. No pay for food? Yeah, but they won't charge my phone anymore. We have Apple Pay because the other ones that went in
Bitch, no, you did not. You did not come in here, eat the chicken straight out the box, eat the soup, spoon and all, drive yourself around while you ate the food out of the cart, and then you gonna say you can't pay because they won't charge your phone. Shut, girl. Get her out of here. Get her out.
Looking down, Charlie.
No. There's 1,000 of us.
Oh, you want the phone or what?
No.
Okay, well, what I told them is that I was paying for this with Apple Pay. They didn't know my phone was dead. They had the money to pay for it. And they were like, well, that ass bitches made it like harassing me. It's over the surveillance. I promise you on. And then this one right here, there's she said she's going ahead and
So, ma'am, you're saying you need your phone charged right now at the pen?
I don't know why, but somebody's saying this one right here with the big glasses. Yo, people just be saying funny shit on body cams for real.
Is that what you're telling us? So, you charge your phone, you're going to pay? What kind of phone you got?
That's why iPhone 14 Pro Max.
You guys have a phone charger? That goes 600.
After you buy the Walmart, this triple C for me, and then I'll trade you some soup for it. Which one are you buying?
Hold on,
I'm not buying anything for you.
Hold on, I need some subtitles.
You guys have a phone charger? That goes 600.
After you buy the Walmart, this triple C for me, and then I'll trade you some soup for it. Which one are you buying for me?
I'm not buying anything for you.
Oh, I buy the charger and then...
No, we're going to loan you a charger temporarily to charge your phone, hopefully.
They said no. They said you're going to 33rd.
Hey, you know what? Honestly, I'd be like, let her charge it. Let her charge the phone so she can pay for the food. Let's do it. Let's go get her. Let's get her a charger. But I already know it's going to be an excuse after that.
UAV ECM mission.
You in there? She's like, yeah, catch me outside. And she was like,
Keeping eyes on the sky.
They did not get them Daniel.
Taker? What does Taker mean? I've got to pay for it. You can't take it 30 seconds.
We gotta try, otherwise it's not gonna follow stage.
Y'all. What if the phone was not dead and she just turned it off and the officer just turned this shit on and it was like a 44% charge? Like, I do feel like she might just turn her phone off and lie.
Losing Bravo.
Do shit all the time. That's why I got a class action lawsuit already.
I have a feeling it's not going to work out. So, but we gotta try.
Securing C.
How are you supposed to charge it?
Steals the phone from me and I'm on that right now.
You said that you want to get your phone charged so you can pay for the stuff you just ate.
On camera, on your action, taking their charges, then she said you're in.
Do you have an ID or driver's license on you so we know who we're talking to?
185 words to solve it with, and never got it back.
They never stood a chance.
How much does she know?
Can I get the precinct better body cam mics? I think they need like a law or something. They need a high quality microphone so I can hear every word that our citizens are saying.
Never got it back.
Yeah, how much does she know?
Bingo. That's all I'm done.
The chips too?
All of them.
She opened every single one of these?
She put her hand in every single one of these boxes. No, that she opened them.
She wants to take one of these. All these open? Some of them are not. I'll tell you what, the ones that are not open.
2 things of barbecue Wise chips. And if you're gonna steal Wise, really? I want some Frito-Lays.
We'll just get rid of them. The one that she has opened and touched something, we'll just get charged for those.
What's your first name?
I'm a YouTuber and it's
What's your first name?
TY Nasty. TY Nasty.
How many more things of soup?
Do you want nasty?
How many things of soup total?
She get.
I think it's gonna be like 8 things of soup. What's your date of birth, Dynasty Robertson?
It's 2/1946.
Just confirm, we do have the money on your account to pay for it.
I sure do, yes.
Okay.
But I can't see it right now until the charge comes up.
Okay.
How much is there?
Hold on. It looks like it's probably going to be over
Wait a
$100.
minute. February 19th. That might be Pisces. I regret to inform you all, it is indeed Pisces. She's on a cusp.
How much is there?
Hold on. It looks like it's probably going to be over $100.
Oh, over $100.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Okay, as long as you don't have $100, fine.
Yeah, but they were acting like it was going to be $500,000. Like,
No, I don't
You
think
ain't got $100.
But
You
they
got
don't
it.
go up that high in the store.
They never told me
Not for
until
the-
they
no.
harassed me until you guys got here. After I said I was going to pay, and then did now for me charge until you got here.
Roberson, Roberson.
That's correct.
Where are you from?
I'm from the Kingdom.
What state is that?
Guyana. Guyana.
Okay.
How long have you been in the United States?
Our opponent just had this real bad CO. So I go in the basement to check the pipes, see if the sewage that flooded or something. It's nothing, but there's some pipe up in the stairs got stepped over. But when I come back, I'm shining my flashlight and it looks like some blood is leaking from it.
This is Mario Nelson, terrified after stumbling upon a horrifying secret in his landlord's basement. The officers questioning him had no idea just how gruesome the discovery truly was until they themselves stepped foot into the dark basement.
You have some skin there, so let's put it back out.
What they were about to uncover would make even seasoned officers question their grip on reality.
I unzipped the bag, and we then discovered the body of a woman with the arms and legs and head. And I said, what are we dealing with here? You know, what kind of animal does this to a person?
On December 2nd, 2018, in downtown Grand Rapids, Michigan, Mario Nelson finally noticed the foul smell as...
I sat here and I told you I didn't want the Patreon membership. Yeah, I know you did. I'm just saying with that Patreon, you get early access to feature videos so you can see them before anyone else. Just play the gosh damn video already. All right, you're the boss. You know, we've been uploading some creator commentaries, and a lot of people are saying, I'll play the video. These creators, you give them your views, and it's always the same. It's always more.
What did you see when you came home from work on Saturday?
Check your sights!
There's a very good reason William Hain is struggling to answer this question. Because what he would have said when he came home from work on the evening of Saturday, August 19th, 2017, was just one of those sights so monstrous that it has no business existing in real life. And his level of responsibility for that sight remains somewhat of an open question. But there's no doubt the primary offender in today's case was his girlfriend, Brooke Cruz. Will and Brooke had been having a bit of a rocky time of it in recent months, which isn't all that surprising. With 3 estranged children on Will's side, 7 on Brooke's, plus lengthy rap sheets of missed child support payments among other offences marking the pair of them, they were hardly the sort of couple that comes to mind when one thinks of a stable relationship. Exactly what the correct distribution of responsibility was for whatever specific problems they were facing isn't really any of our business. But apparently Will was the one to decide calling it quits was the best course of action, telling Brooke he thought they should break up earlier that year around January. Brooke disagreed with his assessment of things, and soon disclosed to Will the main reason she believed they should stay together. She had fallen pregnant. He was going to be a father again, and her a mother, and this time they would defy statistical probability and get parenting right, together. The good news for Brooke is that her pitch worked and Will stayed. The bad news for everyone is that Brooke was lying. the thing with a lie like that is, it really does have a pretty concrete time limit on how long one can keep it going should they fail to actually fall pregnant, which Brooke did. So by August, she was really up against the wall. This is where a young woman named Savannah Greywind comes in. She lived downstairs in the same apartment building as Brooke Cruz and Will Hain in Fargo, North Dakota. There isn't a lot of Savannah in the public domain, aside from these few still photographs. The 22-year-old hadn't really had much of a chance to leave her mark on the world yet. But at 8 months pregnant, and with a loving long-term partner named Ashton, also eagerly awaiting the birth of their baby girl, Savannah Greywind's future certainly looked promising. And yes, that is where this is going. On August 19th, when Brooke Cruz asked Savannah Greywind if she would agree to come up to her apartment to model the dress she would be making, Savannah readily agreed. The two didn't have much of a history beyond passing each other in the halls, and with her ankles swollen from pregnancy, Savannah's afternoon would have been better spent sitting on the couch. But nevertheless, the young nurse's assistant opted to place the virtuous act of helping a neighbor above her own short-term comfort. According to everyone who knew her, that's just the sort of person Savannah Greywind was. She ordered a pizza to share with her family for lunch, but ultimately left before it arrived and walked upstairs so as not to be late for her prior commitment. At about 1:24 p.m., Savannah entered Brooke's apartment. What happened next was so appalling that laying it out explicitly right now just feels like too much. Though fair warning, you will hear it stated explicitly before the end of this video, and in the unlikely event you haven't figured it out already, you probably will when they tell you that just a couple of days later, the news was awash with reports of Savannah's disappearance. William Hain was telling his co-workers that his girlfriend had just delivered a beautiful baby girl. They named her Phoenix. Savannah's last movements on the 19th were fortunately put on record when she texted her mother and boyfriend to let them know that she was about to visit Brooke and pizza was on the way at 1:54 p.m. After that, her communications went dead. This alone would naturally make Cruz and Hain prime suspects in her disappearance, one would think. Yet astonishingly, absolutely nothing peculiar was noted during a search of their apartment that very evening. No trace of Savannah, a baby, or anything. Nor during another search later that same night. Nor during yet another the very next day. Police didn't even observe anything they would classify as suspicious behavior. As a result, Cruz and Hain, while still being persons of interest in Savannah's disappearance, weren't seen by authorities as a log. That's something you need to keep in mind during William Hain's first police interview. He was picked up outside his and Brooke's apartment in the late evening of the 22nd for an outstanding $300 warrant concerning an unrelated matter. Detectives Joshua Luce and Nick Jonas obviously don't care about the warrant, which was merely used as a pretext for securing a no-notice formal interview. But they're not zeroed in on Hain as their culprit either. Right now, they really just want to get his story on the record. After that, he's going home.
I want to talk to you, Will, about this past weekend.
Okay.
Where were you at this past weekend? What was your schedule? What were you doing? Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Friday, I worked.